Warrior Lore. Chapter 1130. Shock and Awe. Chapter 1130. Shock and Awe. Proofreader. Papatonks. Qin Hao looked at everyone's shocked faces with a vile smirk, cupping his hands to drive in his disdain. Everyone, I've picked out Pyrocloud with nothing but care to give the Alliance leader. I couldn't just bring something random, not at such an important event as a grand birthday. Curses, there's hardly any 12th grade spiritual weapons in the world, and you say you're careful? Like you own piles of them. Damn show-off. The people grumbled and sighed, but the glittering spiritual sword pulled their heartstrings harder. Qin Hao was acting like he just came into new money, though it did come with perks. Upstarts were blinded by money and would guarantee to get all his buddies' stuff too. No one was a saint, so in times when one needed help, they would be more than happy to squander money, which went double for upstarts. Alliance leader Luo and I have our differences, but I know to look past them. I give nothing but respect by offering this 12th grade spiritual weapon. Qin Hao knew those looks and grinned, gesturing to offer the scarlet weapon to Luo Yunhai with his eerie gaze. Luo Yunhai's eye twitched, hesitating as he watched that insufferable and gloating smirk. Taking it means losing this bout. Qin Hao was no guest here and barged in just to give him a gift. All signs told to refuse it, since accepting meant greed. The Luo Alliance yearns for Qin's society stuff, and this will strike at their reputation once word spreads to every corner. While refusing, let Qin Hao win. The guy had qualms about throwing such a beauty away, with how rare they were. But since it was all an act and made the Luo Alliance look bad, the sword had lost its value with all his goals checked out. Accepting it meant a stain on the Luo Alliance's name. Not taking it was playing into his hand, having robbed the limelight while also keeping his precious. The Luo Alliance was going to lose some. Without a doubt. Luo Yunhai's face twitched, sighing as he spoke. Society head, I appreciate your generosity, but it's too precious of a gift to accept. It is? Then I'll be sure to bring a cheaper one next time. Haha. Qin Hao went for the kill, putting away the sword without a qualm while sending scornful looks at the people behind Luo Yunhai. Luo Yunhai glared at him hard. Qin Hao cupped his hands to the other guests and laughed. I have one more great news to bring on Alliance Leader's auspicious day. On the 10th of May next year, I shall hold my 260th birthday. Everyone is invited. You'd give me much honor with your presence there. And Alliance Leader Luo, I know you did not give me an invite to yours, but I am most willing to give one to you. Please accept it once Qin's society presents it with utmost respect. I'm getting excited just thinking what your gift might be, especially how much bigger the Luo Alliance is compared to Qin's society. Haha, let's go. Qin Hao strutted out of the hall, like a winner. He finally one-upped the Luo Alliance and crushed their name. Luo Yunhai's group had dark looks, fists clenched, jaws set. The guests blinked between the sides. No one likes being dissed by an underdog. Whoosh. 3 youths blocked Qin Hao, shouting, Hold up, old man. Who dares to block the path of the Qin society head? The rugged man's first reaction was to shout and attack, but Qin Hao raised his hand to hold him back. He looked closer and sneered. Look who it is, if it isn't the Luo Alliance's young miss and the 2 noble sons. What can I do for you? Luo Sifan, Long Jianshan, and Xian Yinyang had been rushing for 3 months to make it to the Alliance leader's celebration on time, but seeing this old guy crashing the party, they were furious. Luo Sifan beamed. Uncle Qin, did you come to congratulate father? Why are you leaving with your gift then? Is it normal to bring it then take it away? Ha ha ha, dear child. It's your dad who thought little of it, so I can only take it back. I wish not to darken the Luo Alliance leader's day, so I chose to leave sooner. Ha ha ha, really? Dad didn't like it? Can I take a look? Go right ahead, child, but I'm sure it's nothing to fuss over. Since you're the Luo Alliance young miss, you must have seen many greater things than this. It won't look nice, being so overwhelmed over something so little. Ha ha. Qin Hao's eyes held nothing but contempt, then opened the box with utter glee once more. Eager to see Luo Alliance young miss' dumb look of shock, Pyrocloud's glory was once more shed into the world, making everyone's heart race. The kid stared hard as well. Pa. The lid closed shut, and the world dimmed just a little. Qin Hao snickered at Luo Sifan. Young Miss Luo, have you seen something like this? You call that great? No wonder Dad rejected that junk. Luo Sifan slanted her head and smirked. Your poker is so-so, but it's natural for Dad to shun it. But looking at you and how you're really getting on in your years, but yet to be met with such cordiality at your thoughtful gift, I'll take it instead. Just leave it and go. Siphon. Luo Yunhai snapped at her. He could not take the gift no matter what, or the world would think the worst of them. Luo Yunchang and Yuer were giving her obvious looks to back off. The girl ignored him. Staring into Qin Hao's eyes with a glimmer in hers, Qin Hao laughed and nodded. Oh my treasure is nothing to the Luo Alliance leader, but quite important to the young Miss I see. I just can't tell who's the blind one here. Luo Alliance leader, do you really want the gift? Qin Hao turned to Luo Yunhai, taunting, but he got no response, only a dark look. Luo Siphon yanked the box and placed it on a table with glee. Enough yapping about and give it already. I told you I'll take your little bauble. Siphon, what do you think you're doing? Luo Yunhai roared, to which Qin Hao mocked. So Luo Alliance leader does care about little old me's gift. Then what was the point of that noble act just now? Ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai's mouth shook, about to spit blood. Qin Hao's laugh turned into a cackle. Old man, why would Dad care about some toothpick? I just can't bear to see you come all this way just to be shot down. That'll be so unfair to you. Luo Siphon snarked. We have more than enough junk like that around for the Luo Alliance to care. Even my gift ends up better than yours. Luo Siphon's hand shone, and a blue sword dazzled the eyes with its azure aura. They all gasped, even the 9 sect leaders. That sword. 12th grade top, Yinamo muttered when Tao wiped his brow, his heart stirring. Not just top, but perfect. I've never seen a spiritual weapon having such an aura. It's one with the world. That's why the girl looked down on Pyrocloud. It's scrap by comparison. Everyone bobbed their heads. Qin Hao's winning look got crushed and his body shook all over in disbelief. How on earth? The Luo Alliance actually has a divine weapon like the unique ones of every land? Luo Siphon bowed, her turn to look smug, moving to present the sword to Luo Yunhai. This is Everblue, 1. 88 meters, 4. 9 kilograms, symbolizing the auspicious number 9, the best of its kind. You represent benevolence, enact justice, steer the world, and lead the people. My friends and I looked long and hard before choosing the most fitting sword for Father. May you live forever and ever, Father. Happy birthday. Having it pointed out, the people woke up and noticed the perfect 12th grade spiritual weapon was a best fit for Luo Yunhai style. Unlike the raw Pyrocloud of before, now this is a thoughtful pick. Does that mean the Luo Alliance has so many of them that they could spare time on these details? Are they filthy rich? Is there no bottom to their wealth? All eyes widened in shock, even Qin Hao, looking agape with his heart in pieces, curses. Now the Luo Alliance is better than the Double Dragon Manor? Why the hell are we still messing with them? Chapter 1131. Clan Conduct. Chapter 1131. Clan Conduct. Proofreader. Papatonks. Everblue's glorious aura shone in the amazed eyes of all guests. Luo Yunhai reached for it, and then pointed at the box to open and let Pyrocloud's red glow shine out. It soon found that the blue sword shone brighter, overwhelming it and stealing the red aura for itself. Pyrocloud then shook and darkened. The people cried out, "How can this be? Pyrocloud degraded to the 11th grade?" Qin Hao's face shook hard, a vein snapping on his forehead as his heart raced like a dying horse. What the hell? Why would a 12th grade spiritual sword up and get degraded? Is Everblue capable of taking the power of other spiritual swords? That's insane. Everyone lit up as they gazed upon Everblue. Qin Hao's heart was bleeding. His prized sword just got bumped down to 11th grade. That's too fast a devaluation. Damn Luo Alliance. Where the hell did they find such a ridiculous sword? I've never heard of such things. This was the product of Zhua Fan's insights into vaulting swords art, mixed with the demon transformation art. It not only had a mild aura, but all spiritual swords around it would be worn out from having their spiritual energy sucked out. Zhua Fan had many sovereign legacies, with swordsmanship being among his latest. His products were bound to be glorious as well, but all people could see was the perfect 12th grade spiritual sword. So strong and so baffling, Luo Yunhai felt familiarity with it in his grip, laughing, "Great sword." The kids perked up, excited as well that their efforts were all worth it. Pa. Qin Hao sighed, about to slip away. He came to make a scene and only made a fool of himself instead. His precious gift even got degraded on top, the knife that cut the deepest. He gambled and lost everything. Wait. Luo Yunhai called out, Society head. Since you offered me a gift, I shall accept it. Qin Hao sighed, shaking his head and showing maudlin self-pity. Alliance leader Luo, there's no need for jokes. With your deep resources, I cannot compare my paltry trinket with your divine sword. Your daughter is most correct. My sword is nothing to Alliance leader, especially now, degraded as it is. I shall take my leave and disturb you no further. Qin Hao slumped as he slinked away. Not so fast. Luo Yunhai smiled. Society head is too kind. Please stay. It's my fault for being so busy to forget about your invitation. With Society head disregarding our differences and coming to offer me a gift, I was thoughtless in receiving you. Please forgive me. Luo Yunhai bowed in sincerity, looking from him to the dazzling blue sword. Qin Hao's face twitched and sighed. Alliance leader Luo is so compassionate. With such a sort, the perfect fit of a true hero. I now know why the Luo Alliance earned the respect of everyone in Western lands. It is I who offended you first. Please forgive me. Qin Hao bowed. Returning the gesture, Luo Sifin was stunned. Auntie, aren't they here to make a scene? Why is Dad? Give respect, and you shall receive our undying gratitude. Take a finger, and we'll take a hand. The Luo clan faces trouble, but is not cruel either. This is the righteous and benevolent conduct of the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang patted her head. Zhuge Changfeng approached. Young miss, the best way to destroy an enemy is by making friends with him. Clan head is most suited for this, different from Steward's style, though he used gains as lures to move others. We may have defeated Qin Hao after coming to crash the party, but we cannot kick someone when they're down and leave his dignity. Going out of line will turn him into our enemy. Clan head did so to bring him on our side, but that's his choice. Though he doesn't look the fool, and maybe clan head's intention would get to him. This will only work to further grow our Luo alliance. Luo Sifin nodded, but then asked, Who's Stewardjua? Why haven't we heard about him? He is dearly missed and grieved. Luo Yunchang sighed, sorrow taking over her. Maybe few are those that can still remember him, but some elders always hold him in respect, admiration, fear, and a bit of pity when talking about him. Pity? How can they not pity a glorious hero dying before his time? Luo Yunchang wiped her tears, shaking her head. I told you mentioning him will make us sad. Zhuge Changfeng nodded. We don't mention Stewardjua because it would bring the ladies sorrow, only discussing it privately. Young miss can't understand. Making Annie sad? Then is he Auntie's lover? Luo Sifin asked. Luo Yunchang gave an ever-bitter smile. I see him as such, but his heart might hold another. That devil, I don't even know where his body is, yet I've yet to find if he held me dear. Luo Yunchang was forlorn. Luo Sifin's eyes shone. She had no clue who this Stewardjua was to make her aunt, a famous iron lady. So sad even after his passing. Just what was he? Was there such a man alive in this world? Luo Sifin turned to Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang, her gophers, and shook her head. Nah, I sure haven't found any. Haha. Luo Yunhai invited Qin Hao in for a drink. Qin Hao came to crash the party and Luo Yunhai didn't like it, of course, but now that he had been pulled in, all the grudge faded into cordiality. The wine poured nonstop, the mood turning lively again. But eyes kept drifting on the blue blade. Qin Hao was no exception, cupping his hands. Alliance leader Luo, where did you get such a divine sword? Luo Yunhai was dubious as well. Sifin, where did you find this precious spiritual sword? All sound ceased, with eyes peeling and ears focused on their location. Father, we've gone through much to get this gift for you. The trio chuckled pridefully. We have gone through so much toil to meet with a master swordsmith in Swordfall. Swordfall? Qin Hao cried. You can't mean this sword came from the blind swordsmith, can you? Luo Sifin lit up and nodded. You know him? Yes, we've been looking to meet him for so long before he finally gave us a sword. Even picked one best for father's gift. I was wondering how you chose something that matched my nature to perfection. So you had help. Ha ha, Luo Yunhai nodded. Society head Qin. Is there something wrong about this swordsmith? Qin Hao frowned hard. Juniors, you must have had heaven's favor to get that eccentric to give you a spiritual sword. Word first reached me about this strange man 20 years ago. I've also sent people to get a sword, but none succeeded. In anger, I tried forcing him, only to lose all that tried, Genesis stage experts no less. When the casualties reached 100, I realized this was hopeless. The blind swordsmith is not normal by any means later on. I heard someone even sent 400 Genesis stage experts for him, yet none returned. I'm just glad I didn't go myself into the devil's den. From then on, no one tried anything. Even if there were divine swords there, none would try ever again. One thing was certain, though, that no sword ever left his hands. I just can't believe your daughter managed to pull it off. Heaven must have favored you greatly. The sword is just like the rumors say, exquisite. Everyone gasped in shock. Even the kids. Talk about having the devil's luck. 3 brats did what hundreds of Genesis stage experts couldn't. The kids were just as clueless as before. Was it supposed to be that hard? The blind uncle was quite nice, though. How can he be cruel when he bickered with juniors? But then recalling Chower scaring away Bald Demon with 2 words, the trio tensed. Did we just go to hell and back? Chapter 1132. Intercepted. Chapter 1132. Intercepted. Proofreader. Papatonks. Father, I would like to know if the Luo Alliance ever had a blind member. Alliance leader, we have a grave situation. Luo Yunhai thought of something and asked, but the sudden panic shout drew everyone's attention to outside the hall. A scout in black rushed in and kneeled. We have news from the central area that Dragon-Cleaving Sword King is on his way to kill Alliance leader. You must get to safety and survive. What? Everyone at the celebration panicked. The hall drowned in frantic voices. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, the once best in Western lands, was coming after Luo Yunhai's head? This is a disaster. There's nothing in Western lands that can stop him. The Luo Alliance was in huge trouble. Many guests had dark looks. Waiting for their response, Zhuge Chongfeng rushed to the scout, snapping at him. How solid is the info? He is a sword king, not someone to stoop down to dirty assassinations. Did the Empire send him? Are they only after the Luo Alliance? Steward Zhuge, the report says the central area has no hand in it, that Dan Qingshan is doing it on his own. What did we ever do to him? Clan head, stewards, not to him but someone else. For he brought lads of our nation to him, and asked for clan head's death. It has spread everywhere by now. Everyone calls it hate begets hate, a part of the cultivation world. Now they're waiting for the drama to unfold between the Luo Alliance and Dan Qingshan. Zhuge Chongfeng's face shook hard at the impossible problem. This is grave. Since this was treated as a cultivator's grudge, and only after one person, no expert of the Four Lands will lend a hand, especially since the central area isn't marching on us. Luo Yunhai's death would mean nothing to the Four Lands, the impact limited to the Luo Alliance, not a loss of strength, but a restructuring of power. While the 4 states keep their strength, the Luo alliances will crumble under the redistribution of power. Double Dragon Manor's dear wish, no doubt. Asking them to help now? Zhuge Chongfeng shook his head and sighed. Long Wucheng knew the situation was dire, his mind working hard for a solution. He found none. Brother Yunhai, we 9 sect leaders will plead your case before Double Dragon Manor. Only the Exalted can stop their former disciple now. When Tao spoke, the others weren't against it, but Qin Hao had little hope this would work. As an old adversary of the Luo Alliance for years and years, he knew best of Double Dragon Manor's stance. In this trying time where a supreme expert was joining in, they all supported Luo Alliance in getting Double Dragon Manor to help, but whether the help would come remained to be seen. The Exalted can at best match Dan Qingshan, even if they do agree. This is an assassination. Dan Qingshan can sidestep them with ease. Qin Hao, having Luo Yunhai nursing his ego all this time, decided to give subtle advice. Don't go, as they won't help since they're too eager to see you die. The others fell silent, with Wu Qingqiu making another proposal. I was once somewhat close to the Shangguan clan. Maybe I could send them a request to help. Somewhat? Brother Wu, you've been making constant trips to eastern lands even now. Ha ha ha. When Tao snickered at his expense, Wu Qingqiu smiled as he looked at Luo Yunhai. Well, thank you sect leader Wu, but going to Double Dragon Manor is still better, since this involves Western lands. It would be best not to go over them. Zhuge Changfeng nodded, looking grave. Clan head. Sect leader's request will also take days, and that means delaying the old man is a must. I propose we double the guard and raise the alert of the border patrols while also sending people to intercept in between to buy enough time. A tall man popped before them, his sideburns swaying in the breeze. He cupped his hands. Clan head. I volunteer to go and meet Dragon-Cleaving Sword King. Elderly. Clan head. We also volunteer. Qiu Yinhai, Xue Qingjian, along with Earth and Heaven elders cupped their hands as well. Luo Yunhai hesitated. You are Luo clan's guardian venerables, without equal in the Luo alliance. But Dragon-Cleaving Sword King is just as monstrous. Going means. As fellow Peak Genesis experts, we would like to see what sets a Sword King apart from us. Ha ha ha. Li Jingtian made a fierce salute, his eyes eager for battle. Clan head, allow us to go against true experts. Death matters little to us. Please allow us, clan head. The other foul bowed. Luo Yunhai sighed and nodded. Everyone else watched the five with respect. The loyalty and courage Luo clan's venerables have is awe-inspiring, rushing by their own initiative against such an enemy. Before you go, take Everblue with you to help. And Pyrocloud. While not up to Alliance leaders Everblue, it will help. Luo Yunhai offered his new spiritual sword, and Qin Hao presented the degraded Pyrocloud. This was respect among heroes. There was a stifling mode prevalent in the hall. The five took them and cupped their hands before leaving. All felt this might be the last time they would see them, as the wind howls and rain batters. Our brave depart never to return. Qin Hao cupped his hand in complete respect. Alliance leader Luo, you have nothing but admiration at the strength your alliance garnered, having such loyal warriors as well. Luo Yunhai shook his head with sorrow. It was Steward Zhua who brought them. Watching them go to their doom makes me a failure as a clan head, disgracing his spirit. Steward Zhua again? Luo Sifin was getting more and more curious. Who on earth is he? Why is he mentioned with nothing but reverence, like a saint? Her feelings were ignored in this dire time when survival was doubtful. People rushed about, laying defenses, forming patrols, anything to stop Danqing Shan. The celebration came to a halt as the guest knew this was the last drink. Long Jianshan, Xian Yinyang. We never did see the five elders fight as one. It must be amazing. Let's go watch. While all were busy, she sneaked to her gophers to get them on board. Long Jianshan hesitated. The strongest venerables have never moved before. The enemy must be dangerous. Won't we get hurt by going? Scared? I am not scared. How are we going to catch up anyway? Simple. With Grandpa Li's dotting so much, I slipped 1,000 league sin on him in case the old man would try to avoid playing with me. We'll find them for sure with the lovesick larva. Sifin, you trickster. Long Jinshan's face twitched and sighed. I got nothing left to argue. Stop with the prattle. You're in or out? In. The brat sneaked out. Where did those kids go this time? Yuer looked around and frowned. A month later, at the Western Lands border, a thin old man stood in the desert. Facing 5 men, Danqing Shan was out on a stroll, living a little, while also taking Luo Yunhai in passing. I haven't been home in years, yet I just passed the border and you're here to meet me. How may I help you? Are you Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, Danqing Shan? Precisely. We're the Luo clan's 5 venerables. That explains it. Danqing Shan nodded, smiling. You came to die for your lord. I do appreciate your devotion. Ding. Li Jingtian held out an azure sword while Qiu Yinhai wielded Pyrocloud, pointing it at him. We came on behalf of the clan head, but also to see the legend of the best in Western lands for ourselves. As Peak Genesis experts, why are you so much stronger? I see. Martial fanatics, just like me. Ha ha ha. Danqing Shan chuckled freely. Then he stiffened, setting his piercing gaze upon the azure sword. Where did you get that? Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Proofreader, Papatonks. Pick up the pace, you two. I don't want to get there when the fighting is over. A girl ran ahead of 2 guys, dashing through the woods and holding a wiggling worm. Adjusting course based on its direction, Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang shared a worried look for the willful and obstinate young Miss Sister Siphon. Let's just stop. We'll only burden the venerables in a Genesis stage expert showdown. Say if you don't want to go. Don't make excuses, you chicken. Luo Siphon huffed, speeding up. I'll just go by myself then. I've yet to see a Sword King fight. Are they as amazing as they say that not even the 5 of them together can handle? The Gophers hung their heads in defeat at their headstrong boss lady. We're here. Luo Siphon glanced at the worm, raising its head, and lit up. She crossed a bush and a sea of yellow entered her view. With the sun's dazzling rays shining on her delicate features, her enchanting eyes, she froze on the spot. Her excitement for the fight had now drained from her face, her blood running cold. Whoosh. The Gophers arrived as well. Sister Siphon, wait for us, we? The duo stiffened at the shocking scene. How is this possible? As the sand blew, they witnessed blood soaking everywhere. 5 familiar figures were laying in it. Unmoving before them was an old man in blue, holding an azure sword and tracing its blade with a frown. Strange. How can there be the vaulting sword art? Why does this sword contain vaulting swords mysteries? The Exalted aren't good at refining either, while their swordsmanship isn't impressive either. Does this mean that the Western Lands has another vaulting sword inheritor? But why the Luo clan? I've never heard of anyone from Luo clan getting into Double Dragon Manor. Grandpa Li, Luo Siphon cried out in tears, rushing to him before the other 2 could stop her. Siphon? The old man paused and observed the distressed girl looking after Li Jingtian. You're from Luo clan? Why, you're dragon-cleaving Sword King. Danqing Shun? Luo Siphon's eyes quivered, but steeled herself to meet his gaze. Danqing Shun nodded. I am. The kids shivered, their hearts tensing. Did you do this to them? Luo Siphon was most definitely scared, but fought through it to ask. Danqing Shun offered a snicker. Yes, this is my handiwork. Missy, you're quite brave, knowing I hurt them yet rushing over still. Aren't you scared I'll take your lives? The trio flinched and shook like leaves. Luo Siphon tightened her fists. My clan has no cowards. Grandpa Li and the others are our venerables. I am not about to turn a blind eye to them. What spunk? Danqing Shun nodded. I can see the valor in Luo clan, like they say. Even the kids are steadfast. I'd hate to go against you just on this alone, but I made a vow. Girl, you recognize this sword? Luo Siphon glanced at Everblue and nodded. Great. Let's talk. I've come to Western Lands for only one man, and I'll kill any that stand in my way. But seeing your venerables so steadfast and righteous garnered my sympathy, and I left them breathing. Now tell me where you got this sword, and I'll leave you be as well. Luo Siphon was silent. Why is he so interested in it? Are Sword Kings after 12th grade spiritual weapons as well? Or is it maybe the blind uncle? I can't tell on him, or he'll get hurt. Danqing Shun snickered. Don't feel like talking? Then none of you are leaving here alive, including your elders. Danqing Shun flexed his aura to mount the pressure. The kids were rooted on the spot, their breaths stolen and their faces red. Luo Siphon gnashed her teeth. Ha ha ha. Just like Luo clan, tight-lipped. Danqing Shun's eyes shone, ramping up the pressure. I asked the old guys as well, but they just attacked and look how they end up. But why are you kids doing the same? They could at least fight while you are all powerless before me. Do you really want to die like this? Luo clan never turns its back on anyone. Luo Siphon squeezed through the pain and discomfort. Danqing Shun was touched. He was about to go easy on them when a shout came. It's the blind swordsmith. He gave it to us. Whoosh. Danqing Shun snapped his eyes on Long Jianshan. Who is that? He lives 3 miles out of Swordfall. The villagers know about him. Long Jianshan recoiled under the piercing stare. Danqing Shun nodded and chuckled. Girl, you're not bad. While he, ha ha ha. Danqing Shun vanished. Luo Siphon glared at him. Long Jianshan, how can you sell out the blind uncle? What if he wanted to harm uncle? But we were about to get killed. What was I supposed to do? Long Jianshan looked crushed, muttering, I was doing it for us. It's he who will die, instead of us 5, 6, 7, 8. All the more reason we can't betray his goodwill after giving the sword. Are we that ungrateful that we sent trouble his way? Haven't you ever heard of death before dishonor? Luo Sifin glared as she lashed at him, who is to say 8 lives outweigh 1 life. Rumble. A loud rumble approached as a third-level spiritual beast-drawn carriage arrived. Carrying a languid voice, "Are you from the Luo clan? Get in. I want to save the blind swordsmith." "Why you're? I've met your alliance leader once and told me who deserves to die and who doesn't. Regardless of what Dan Shan has against the Luo clan, the blind swordsmith is innocent. I will try to mediate." The soft voice spoke again. "Have the wounded placed in a safe spot. I'll save them." Luo Sifin nodded in joy and signaled Xian Yin-yang for help with the elders. Long Jinshan hesitated, shaken up hard from the encounter with the dragon-cleaving sword king, but scarier by far was Luo Sifin's fury, and so Long Jinshan lent a hand as well after taking care of them. The 3 got in and were shocked to witness such beauty rumble. The carriage rushed through and arrived before the cabin with the sign sword shack written on it. Its door was blown out and Danqing Shan sat before it. His eyes shone at the dangling spiritual swords. Hearing the carriage stop, he looked behind to see a fair lady cupping her hands. "Dragon-cleaving sword king, greeting. Morong clan's young miss?" Danqing Shan chuckled. "I don't recall having met with Brother Morong. It ought to be Wine Sword Immortal the closest with you. Miss Morong, why would you look for me?" The kids got out as well and shrank in fear, while also amazed at Morong Shui. The lady must be important for even Danqing Shan to show respect. They had yet to grasp how vast the world was, that their Luo alliance had only been around for just shy over a century. As for the Morong clan, it held power in the 5 lands for millennia, making even the central area think twice. This was the deterrence a Sword King level expert brought, unlike all those countless factions. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Proofreader, Papatonks. Taking in the sword shack's condition and the lack of battle signs, Morong Shui relaxed and asked, "What of the blind swordsmith? Sword King couldn't have erased him already, right? I was met with a 9th grade array just as I arrived and only broke it." Danqing Shan smiled. "Inside there are only swords. But every last one of them contains deep insights in the sword path. I didn't know such a person lived. He may very well be the best refiner. Ha ha ha." Luo Sifin eased a breath. Thank heavens blind uncle isn't here. Morong Shui wasn't one to be settled with just that. "Dragon-cleaving sword king, why might you be looking for the blind swordsmith? What are your intentions?" "To ask some questions. That's it. Though if the answers are to disappoint, I'll be taking his life instead." Danqing Shan squinted, his face cold. Morong Shui's heart sank. She let out a breath, knowing she could not stop a sword king. Despite being a peak Genesis expert herself, Luo Sifin was startled as well, praying, "Don't come, blind uncle. Someone wants to kill you, a top expert in the world. You have to stay away. I couldn't forgive myself if you died." Which, obviously, went unanswered. My, what a crowd we have today. It's been ages since I got so many guests at my shack. Flinching, all snapped in the voice's direction and saw a youth in white and covered eyes, his smile sinister, and a few old signatures among you as well. "Welcome, old friends. Ha ha ha." Luo Sifin gasped. "Run, uncle. He wants to kill you." "Kill me? Who? Aren't we all old pals? I never irked anyone here." Zhuofan had no qualms at all. "Old pals?" Luo Sifin looked at Danqing Shan and Morong Shui, their faces so shocked they'd seen a ghost. Danqing Shan pointed at Zhuofan, stammering, "Why, you're not dead." "Of course not. Or were you expecting a ghost in broad daylight? It never crossed my mind that you're the blind swordsmith." Morong Shui's eyes shook, taking a deep breath and turning to Luo Sifin. "Don't worry. This blind uncle is none other than the greatest devil that has walked the earth. Him getting hurt? It'll be a miracle if he doesn't cause genocide instead." "Yeah, who could ever kill me?" "Ha ha ha, girl. Know how to make tea? Put a kettle on. Me and my old friends are having a chat." Zhuofan waved without a care. An hour later, Morong Shui gave the 5 wounded pills before laying them in the shack. Zhuofan entertained the guests in a small gazebo outside. The hostility was now gone. replaced with utter calm. The kids were staring oblivious to the inner workings, slowly making their way inside the shack. Long Jianshan pulled her to the side and looked outside. Sister Siffin, who was that blind guy? Why is Dragon-Cleaving Sword King suddenly listening to his words and sitting down to enjoy old times? Who the hell is he to stand equal to a Sword King? How should I know? Luo Siffin was equally baffled by what was happening. In any case, the blind uncle must be something else. How else can you explain these big names acting all friendly around him? Zhuofan felt 3 pairs of intrigued eyes on his back and smiled. After a century, I still get to see some old friends. Miss Morong, still a busybody like usual? I'm working for the greater good and helping the needy. Not like you know anything about that. Now would you? Morong Shui rolled her eyes and huffed. Yet all these years that went by still can't make me forget the war, your actions, whether good or bad, whether right or wrong. That's why I have been traveling to see the world and find a definite answer. It has eluded me even now. Zhuofan smirked. I've experienced life's trials as well, with something to show for, unlike you. If willing, come with me to see the culmination of evil and righteous in humanity. Maybe it will bring you peace. Morong Shui nodded in the end. No longer as antagonistic. Zhuofan, did you make this? Danqing Shan placed Everblue on the table. Staring hard at his face, Zhuofan nodded. How? Why can I feel the vaulting sword art from it? When did you learn it? Over the last century. Zhuofan eased a breath. Old Dan, I've been keeping something from you for a long time. That fight in Double Dragon Manor. Zhuofan revealed Vaulting Sword's situation in detail. Sorry for fooling all of you. Vaulting Sword was with me, while the Exalted and you thought it was with the other. This burden had been held for 100 years. What? Danqing Shen shook, unable to comprehend how a brat pulled the wool over him, the best in Western lands, and yet he was still the fall guy. Outrageous. Morong Shui gave him a long look and smiled. You're really something, toying with Western lands best when you were nothing. I don't think there was anyone in the world would be more insane as you. True, that was one huge gamble that had me nervous to the core. Nervous? Yet you still took it? Where is it now? I won't return it. Danqing Shen held out his hand, but Zhuofan shook his head. It's been with me for so many years. I see no reason to give it away. I'm only explaining to you and giving you understanding, while giving me peace. I mean, you did save me once, and it wouldn't do to keep this from you. I've saved you years ago, and you're only telling me now? I was scared you'd kill me. What about now? No. Zhuofan was frank like never before in his life. Danqing Shen's beard shook wildly in anger. Curses. He grew up and now I can't do anything. The instant Danqing Shen sensed the vaulting sword in Everblue, he knew. The swordsmith had the same understanding as him, and after seeing it to be Zhuofan, all became clear. Zhuofan was a freak of nature to begin with. Taking a century had to have made him an abomination. He believed he'd suffer for fighting. If it came to that after grumbling for a while, Danqing Shen hit the table and rose to leave. Zhuofan stopped him. Wait, old Dan, we haven't finished talking about old times after so many years. Where are you going? Screw your reminiscing. I have nothing to say to you. I need to kill someone. A bloodlust like no other has taken over me. You had me fuming mad. Zhuofan didn't let him go still. Old Dan, you can kill anyone but Alliance leader Luo. Do a favor for the little old me and let him go, all right? Favor? My word is my bond. Someone brought me the painting and asked for his head. How can I refuse? Old Dan, don't you find it the least bit strange? The whole world knows about it. You're being played. So what? I don't care. Danqing Shen snapped. I have my principles. Even if we haven't fallen out, we're men of our word. You have your values and I have mine. My oath has to be fulfilled to the best of my ability. Zhuofan nodded in understanding. Your best then if it exceeds it? What are you on about? Getting killed on your way to Luo Yunhai should be called excessive, right? Danqing Shen's face twitched. And who would? Me. Zhuofan spoke. Danqing Shen clenched his fists, squinting. Why would you? Because I am the first steward of the Luo clan. Zhuofan. Boom. A flood of bloodthirst rushed out of Zhuofan, filling the earth and the heavens with a crippling coldness. Chapter 1135. Still have the skill. Chapter 1135. Still have the skill. Proofreader. Papatonks. Who? An eerie wind blew through the world, sending fear into the hearts of every living being. Murong Shui even flinched back at her level. As for the kids, they paled instantly, shaking all over from terror. The blind uncle, who looked to be in the profound heaven stage, was actually on Danqing Shun's level. Is he another Sword King level expert? But no matter how hard they racked their brains about it, no such blind expert came to mind. The newest addition was that lone-armed Sword King. Luo Sifan gasped at Zhua Fan's cruel figure. Blind uncle is full of surprises. Danqing Shin knew Zhua Fan was at his level and couldn't be pushed around. He felt tense against such equal opponent, though it was far from making him fear it. You did in just 100 years what it took me 1,000. Zhua Fan, you're one of a kind genius. You may be at my level, but we'll only end our fight in a draw. I know that most of your power is within those eyes. I may not understand why, but it's obvious you can't use them now. You have no chance of stopping me as you are. Danqing Shen jumped and pointed 2 fingers at the sky. Following a deep rumble, the heavens caved and roars echoed out, with dragons converging on his fingertips. A power like no other fell from the sky. The destructive force covering the entire area. Murong Shui was sweating. The kids were panicking. Is this a Sword King? We've never felt this before, not even from tens of Genesis experts joining hands. All Sword Kings are out of this world. But can blind uncle stop it? The trio turned to Zhua Fan with hope, only to see him calm as always. They thought the worse. Even he is scared stiff in front of Danqing Shen's power. Whoosh! Zhua Fan was gone the next moment, popping just a meter from Danqing Shen. Why is he so fast? The calm Danqing Shen turned frantic. His attack, gathering in his fingers, was sent slashing at Zhua Fan with a flick of his wrist. Zhua Fan couldn't dodge at this distance, taking the brunt of the attack. Any other Sword King would never take something like this head-on, since it would cripple them, and yet. Whoosh! Zhua Fan's right hand shone scarlet and grabbed Bam. With the roars of thousands of dragons, the attack carried the might of heavens and dragons as they went for Zhua Fan. But Zhua Fan merely caught it with his Qilin arm. The rumbling grew in intensity, the clash sending blinding lights everywhere, along with violent shockwaves. They crumbled the earth, shook the skies, and crushed mountains. The onlookers were overwhelmed. Is this a clash between Sword Kings? This is insane. What's with all this shaking? Is the world coming to an end? Danqing Shen was just as incredulous. How can you take on my sword with one arm? A golden fire exploded from the arm, cutting off his words. The flames covered the sword wave, eliciting wails of dragons, while the Qilin arm squeezed. The powerful sword wave was devoured with a boom by the golden flames, while the mass of dragon power in the world around them faded out. The decimating sword art? Danqing Shen cried out. Then a scarlet glow flicked across the air, and a heavy power hacked at him. Zhua Fan merely chopped, yet the scarlet wave felt like death to Danqing Shen. Boom! The attack shot into the sky, erasing everything for 1,000 miles in its path. The mountain scenery surrounding Swordfall turned into a desert in an instant. The kids watched agape as the dust roiled in the sky. The landscape changed all around them, the shock almost stopping their hearts. Murong Shui was unable to believe such power existed and gulped. The cunning devil from 100 years ago became a demon archon. Who could stand up to him? Danqing Shen's white hair fluttered in the winds. Zhua Fan took back his hand from the side of his face and said, Old Dan, I may not have my eyes, but my skill remains. Now can you turn back? Soaring sword art? Danqing Shen stared back with empty eyes, his smile turning bitter. Yes, I can. I have no way of killing Luo Yunhai. There's no chance for me when I'm stopped by someone who learned 3 divine sword arts to perfection. None whatsoever. Danqing Shen looked devastated and forlorn, leaving with hunched shoulders. Zhua Fan, you deserve to have vaulting sword. And he left. Back to central area. Zhua Fan was just too strong for him to defeat. The first strike stopped him, but the next would end him. The brat became the second invincible sword. Ha ha ha. Zhua Fan landed as he watched Danqing Shen go. Murong Shui no longer looked calm. Shaking like a leaf, the 4 missing divine swords ended up with you 100 years ago? Yes and no. You'll know in time. Zhuofan walked back to the shack. The kids were silent from fear. Even shivering, Zhuofan patted the girl's head. It's fine now. Go back to your dad. Danqing Shan was beaten back, so tell him to relax. Right, Luo Sifan nodded. Zhuofan smiled and patted her some more before going to Li Jingtian's side. He inspected their wounds and nodded. Miss Morong isn't stingy with her medicine, using 10th grade pills. In a week, they should wake up and recover in a month. I'm never stingy with my patients, but it's also because Danqing Shan didn't go hard on them and crush their spirit, or it wouldn't be as easy. Old Dan is an upright man, but in our world, sometimes you're forced to do things against your principles. Ha ha, Zhuofan laughed. Maybe he'd wanted this defeat. Really? I didn't notice him throwing the fight. You can't keep yourself from following your heart's desire. This is old Dan's way. Zhuofan smiled. Morong Shui molded over Luo Sifan plucked up her courage to say, Blind uncle, do you and the Luo alliance have history? Haha, there may be some there. Zhuofan smirked, then a jade slip shot into his hand. After a careful read, his face was hard. Girl, speak to no one about today. Act like you never saw me. When the geezers wake up, take them and leave, understand? Everyone flinched. What's going on? Why the sudden change? Chapter 1136, Twisted Humanity. Chapter 1136, Twisted Humanity. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo Sifan grew annoyed. Blind uncle, you're being mean to us. How are we going to explain to them when they wake up? That dragon-cleaving sword king up and left? We have no excuse. Isn't simple? Zhuofan cocked an eyebrow. Just say you pleaded with all your being, and he was touched by your upright characters, so he left. Then add a little flair to the story, make it harrowing and desperate. That ought to sell nicely. That's it. The trio's faces twitched. It's too damn obvious for anyone to believe. Zhuofan said, We're the only ones who know about what happened. If you don't talk and I stay silent, none will be the wiser. You can spin it however to others, but what grounds do they have to doubt you? Besides, Danqing Shan has long since left. But, no buts, you're not to say the truth, or else. Zhuofan turned cold, adding a bit of bloodthirst in his gaze. Danqing Shan can't go to the Luo alliance, but I can. Take it as you will. The kids shook in recollection of Zhuofan's godlike might and bobbed their heads. Zhuofan grinned. Great. I'm letting you take the credit here, and not silencing you. And haven't I told you last time not to speak about me? How come you brought Danqing Shan to my door? The trio froze, with 2 of them looking at Long Jianshan's horrified face. Oh, the chubby guy again. Zhuofan pulled on that tearing face, snickering. Selling me out? Have you? You were also complaining last time. Snubbing me? Let's settle everything here and now. Long Jianshan slumped to the ground in a trembling mess. Senior, I'm sorry. I didn't know you're so great. I am nothing to you. Please have the generosity to spare me. I'll never speak of you ever again. Blind uncle, please let him go. Luo Sifan pleaded, afraid Zhuofan was going to pinch his brains out. Who could say with these geezers' tempers? Zhuofan smiled. Your old man must have spoiled you rotten, judging by that horrified look. Conceited all the time, yet a coward when it matters. Get up. Now's your time to make up for it and play the hero. Tell on me again, and I'll go into your home and make mincemeat out of you. Got that? Yes, great senior, totally. I believe you can do anything. Long Jianshan sobbed and trembled. Zhuofan nodded, content. With the other 2 kids lowering their heads, Zhuofan finally eased a breath and walked off. Blind uncle, you. Girl, I'm leaving. Today was but an interlude to what is to come. Take care. Zhuofan turned to Morong Shui. Miss Morong, are you still interested in figuring some things out? I'll show you what is good and what is evil. Zhuofan left. Morong Shui muttered, before following after him. The kids were the only ones remaining, looking lost. Long Jianshan was still shaking, his face twitching. Mommy, he's gone at last. In the Double Dragon Manor, when Tao, Yenimo, and other sect leaders had been at the heaven-reaching pavilion for a long time, pacing about while waiting for a reply, a grizzled man came out and bowed. Sect leaders, What might have brought you here? Elder, we would like to ask the Exalted whether. I'm terribly sorry, but the Exalted have been gone for a while now. We don't know where they went. The old man cut off when Tao, his expression heavy. Yanamo asked, when will the Exalted be back? We're unsure. They've always been unpredictable. You've all been cultivating in Double Dragon Manor and should know this better than anyone. We do. Sorry to disturb you. When Tao shook his head and sighed, they all bowed and left once gone. One black and one white old man came out. Exalted Hey Ran shook his head. They're all part of Western lands, yet we're still ignoring them in this? We'd be holding our duty if it were anyone else. But Luo Yunhai's ambition has no limit. He's been growing over these years so much that it's clear he aims for the top, going against us. His people skills are truly formidable. All these people just now were once our disciples, yet they've taken the Luo clan's side. He must have learned Zhua Fan's core values. Even when Zhua Fan faked death, they still recommended the Luo clan. Exalted He Ran nodded. I know. I just got word the Qin society that's been at odds with the Luo alliance all this time got pulled into the birthday celebration. Luo Yunhai's compassion has no limit. With such a high achiever in Western lands, it brings unrest. A vicarious settlement is best. Exalted by Mei left while Exalted He Ran side behind him. At the entrance to the Shangguan clan in Eastern lands, Shangguan Qingyan walked Wu Qingqiu out. I'm sorry, senior brother Wu. Our venerables are set on this. It's fine. The seniors must have their own thoughts about it. Goodbye. Wu Qingqiu bowed. Shangguan Qingyan returned the gesture. Feeling helpless, Shangguan Qingyan went back in and bowed before the elders. Venerables, senior brother Wu was here and I couldn't be blunt. But now I have to know. The Luo clan is a benevolent group in Western lands, working well with ours. Why wouldn't we help them in this time of need and bring us closer together? Yenner, all these years you've handled the clan. You've never done anything of import, only trivialities, and don't have perspective. Why do you think Double Dragon Manor doesn't interfere despite Danqing, Shun coming to Western lands to cause trouble? Why was it Wu Qingqiu who came asking for our help? Maybe Double Dragon Manor was in difficulty? What difficulty when it's just Danqing Shun and not against the central area? Even if something grave was happening, it should be Double Dragon Manor who would ask of our help and not Ultimate Clarity Sect. That's Shangguan Qingyan hesitated. The venerable sighed. His voice resolute. Yenner, humanity is twisted at heart. We're not suspicious of other, but should at least be cautious. Double Dragon Manor is the head of Western lands. By going over their heads and interfering, we're undermining their authority, damaging the relation between the lands. And when Wu Qingqiu arrived, signs have already shown this might be the case. The Western lands' waters run deep, and it's best we don't get involved. Venerable, Double Dragon Manor wants. Shangguan Qingyan's face fell a month later. The envoys gone to plead assistance had returned. Looking bitter and disappointed, Yanamo cupped his hand in apology. Brother Luo, the Exalted are away. Their minds maybe. They were clearly avoiding us. When Tao sighed, I'd never have known people could be like this if it weren't for this incident. For even the Exalted to do this. Luo Yunhai and Zhuge Changfeng foresaw this and nodded. Shangguan clan's 3 venerables declined on grounds of stumbling in their cultivation. Wu Qingqiu reported this reason was so casual it left others speechless. Stumble? They've been around millennia and 1,000 years at peak Genesis stage with no sign of advancing. What's stumbling? Neither side was willing to help. Who then in the Luo alliance could put a stop to Danqing Shun's power? All had deep frowns at such a serious problem, but this trouble ended up repelled without their knowledge. The man who did it was now watching them from the shadows with a warm smile. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Proofreader, Papatonks. Dad. In a moment of great turmoil, Luo Siffin's group came in with the wounded elders. Luo Yunhai gasped. Siffin? Where have you brats run off to the last few days? Your mother has been searching for you everywhere. Dad, we're not children. We've gone to do important stuff. Important? Luo Yunhai glanced behind them. At Li Jingtian and others, he only got utter confusion from the elders, and a shrug. Luo Yunhai turned to the kids, with Luo Siffin looking prideful. Dad, You don't have to worry about that dancing Shin guy anymore. We scared him off. He must be back in the central area by now. What? Everyone gasped, looking at the kids in disbelief. These wee kids made dragon-cleaving Sword King leave? As if? Luo Yunhai asked, still out of it. Elderly, you want to stop dancing Shun? What on earth happened? Are you all right? Thank you, clan head, for your concern. Actually, Li Jingtian bowed. Then their faces twitched. We're not sure. Not even you? Why? Clan head, we've been unconscious from our heavy wounds. And when we woke up, we saw the kids had taken us to a bamboo shack. They say they've made Danqing Shun fall back, and the only thing we could do was come back since there was no sign of him around. No checkpoint we passed had seen him either. Li Jingtian's story began shaky and ended in confusion. Did he leave or not? Luo Yunhai looked hard at Luo Sifan. How did you get him to leave? We. Luo Sifan giggled, putting on Zhua Fan style as she wove a touching tall tale. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang joined in as well, ramping up the danger, the tragedy, and, inadvertently, the comedy. They were sure to include any trial imaginable to any human being, no short of going to hell and back, and that's how Dragon-Cleaving Sword King felt sorry for us pathetic three and left. Long Jianshan ended with a few sniffs, though the pride obvious in his eyes. Alliance leader. You can't imagine the danger Sister Sifan was in, but I stepped in? As if. I stepped in? Shut it. It was me. No. Me. Long Jianshan wanted to paint himself as saving the damsel, but Xian Yinyang wouldn't have it. The next thing you knew, Alliance leader Luo would think of him when giving his daughter's hand. The two agreed that anything else was fine. Except this, the innocent Luo Sifan looked dumbstruck. Why fight over who lied? They weren't fighting for just some breadcrumbs, but for their future father-in-law's favor. Luo Yunhai was clearly not buying it, snapping at them. All right, already. Who told you brats that you can go into such danger? Guard, cane them 50 times, without yuan chi protection, and then ground them in their room for a month. Ah, don't give me that. I'll make sure you won't soon forget this. Luo Yunhai had the guard take them away. At the dismay of the heroes, didn't we do good? Why are we punished? Zhuofan laughed at their expense, patted Morong Shue's shoulder, and left Wu Qingqiu and Luo Yunhai were in the dark as to what actually happened, but their nerves relaxed with Danqing Shan giving up. Whoosh! Zhuofan took Morong Shue through the forest outside the Luo alliance, laughing. The brats did it this time. They thought they could take credit? I'd have slapped them in Yunhai's stead. How could they go through such dangers when their parents are worried sick? Ha ha ha. You sure know your way around, having been the first steward of the Luo alliance. No one picked up on anything. Morong Shue looked behind the barrier. Please. I set these up before leaving. Even if it is improved, it is done with my own work as the base. I don't need to know much about this place. Ha ha ha. The good and evil you speak of. This? Zhuofan shrugged. Double Dragon Manor represents what's good and fair in Western lands, earning people's trust. Shangguan clan also preaches righteousness. Miss Morong must think that with the Luo clan holding the same values and asking them for help, they ought to jump at the occasion to do good. Why then the cold shoulder? Morong Shue sank and thought Zhuofan smirked. It didn't get them anything by helping. The Luo clan is large and Double Dragon Manor began to have different opinions about it. Since such a prime chance came to cull it, why waste it? Shangguan clan is an upright clan, but having not gotten Western Land's boss greenlight, what would be the point of saving the Luo clan? It was ill-advised getting on Double Dragon Manor's bad side as a result. So I ask you, Miss Morong, is this good or evil? Behind a greedy heart, demons lurk. Morong Shuesai Zhuofan shook his head. Hardly. Double Dragon Manor has its own issues. It has deep roots into Western lands, tied to it. Once that changed, Western lands changed. Moreover, one's nature is forever unknown. What kind of boss out there would allow an underdog to rise above it? Even beasts would do everything to drive out intruders, most of all humans. Why? Fear. Double Dragon Manor wants to do things for itself. Failing sometimes means losing one's life. Shangguan clan looked after itself just as well. By offending Double Dragon Manor, they lose a strong ally. What's so bad about getting your family strong before doing good? What point is good if it can't keep you in power? So, are they good or evil? Murong Shui was mystified. Zhuo Fan laughed. Keep watching. The 5 lands are going to clash again. I'll then show you what a real disaster and calamity is all about. Murong Shui followed him still. In a gloomy hall, Yuan Yong hastily came forward to bow. Prime Minister, Dragon-Cleaving Sword King was thwarted. Someone stopped him, holding strength beyond his, from taking down Luo Yunhai. Oh, did those 2 geezers intervene? Bailey Jingwei smiled. Yuan Yong was grave. No? Who then? I don't know. The Sword King didn't say, only that he was powerless. I see. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King's word is his body. For him to say that, then it exceeded his ability. Bailey Jingwei nodded. No matter. What about the other land's reactions? Ignored. Yuan Yong replied. They all say they reap what they sow and none stepped in. Not even Double Dragon Manor. Ultimate Clarity Sect's Wu Qingqiu even asked Shangguan clan's help for the Luo clan, only to be refused. Bailey Jingwei's smile grew. Good, there's at least some result. Sir Yuan, ever thought of returning to Tianyu? What? Pass my order. Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming, in his position as Central Area Ambassador, along with Deputy Minister of War Yuan Yong, are to go to Western lands and discuss the removal of Devil Palace with every land. The other 3 lands will have a renowned member from the Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Revenue, and Ministry of Works as ambassadors informing the leaders of the lands of this action. Prime Minister, Yuan Yong was stunned. Bailey Jingwei waved him off, snickering. Sir Yuan, you have one other mission. Listen. Bailey Jingwei explained in the dark Yuan Yong's true purpose. Bailey Jingwei dismissed him and said coldly, Understand? I'm letting you do this not to get Tianyu back, but to become lord over Western lands, under the Sword Star Empire. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I won't let you down. Yuan Yong cupped his hands and went away with glee. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Proofreader, Papatonks. By Bailey Jingwei's decree, the officials drafted the documents quickly, sending them to the 4 lands' leaders through ambassadors. As the Sword Star Empire was focused on recovery the past century, it maintained stable relations with the other lands. The lands were very much wary of this large enemy, but the appearances were kept, with some seldom cooperation taking place. Bailey Jingwei sent the ambassadors as goodwill. The 4 lands were welcome to refuse, but that would raise tension with the empire and lead to further problems that they would rather do without. What was the harm of one small errand boy paying a visit anyway? As for Devil Palace, they were at peace with them now, but who knew what the future held? The day might come when all the lands had to unite and remove this organization. Taking precautions for that was only natural. After careful consideration, the 4 lands agreed to the empire's ambassador Yuan Yong and Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming, took their flashy honor guard to Western lands. Unlike the other lands' envoys, they had to make a stop by the Tianyu Empire before going to Double Dragon Manor. The empire's ambassador is passing by and wants us to receive him. 3 months later, in the imperial palace's study, the middle-aged emperor, Yuan Song, lost his youthful chubbiness, thinning somewhat. He even had a mustache. He gasped as he stared at Luo Yunhai sitting across from him. Alliance leader Luo, are you sure? Tianyu isn't in the direct path between Western Lands border and Double Dragon Manor. Are you sure that's right? Luo Yunhai sighed. Of course I am, since it came directly from Double Dragon Manor. Saying there's someone from Tianyu among the delegation making a glorious return and asking explicitly for the Luo Alliance to receive them. From Tianyu? Who? Yuan Song paced about in thought. Some glory, when it's just some guy's detour. Humph. I am the Emperor of Tianyu. Any that have been from Tianyu are my people. But to come back as Sword Star Empire's delegate, he's demanding my respect? That's humiliating. Luo Yunhai chuckled. Your Majesty, what humiliation? This is in constant flux. Weren't you respectful when meeting me before you even became emperor? Oh, I see. Yuan Song chuckled. Speaking of, Alliance leader Luo, you were very kind back then. When Zhuo Fan seized everything, I thought I'd be reduced to a puppet my entire life. But after the Luo Alliance expanded, You returned ruling back to me. I'll always be grateful for that. Luo Yunhai said, Your Majesty, the Luo clan is also thankful for all your care back then. We both know it was an investment. Like Zhuo Fan said, having motives. But you lacked any with me, offering back the power to rule in sincerity. They just don't compare. Regardless, the kindness still remains. The Luo clan will never lord over their supporters. Yuan Song chuckled. Alliance leader Luo, no, brother Yunhai, I shall return your respect manifold. Whoever comes back to strut, I'll be sure to shower him in glory, so as not to nitpick with you. Nitpick? Brother Luo, I may be the ruler of some small kingdom, but things happening in Western lands do reach my ear. I know Double Dragon Manor is watching you like a hawk, ready to use anything as an excuse, right? I have vied for the throne and know how to handle problems. Luo Yunhai's face twitched, then beamed. After 3 more days, the imperial capital was adorned with colorful decorations. Emperor Yuan Song and Empress Long Kue stood at the entrance. It was the highest honor given by the Tianyu Empire to any guest, that of the emperor welcoming the delegation himself, though soon found it to be given. Since it came from the Sword Star Empire, next to them stood the Luo Alliance high officials, with Luo Yunhai in the lead. All stood there, waiting until noon, when the sun was at its highest, to reveal a rumbling carriage forward guarded by an escort of 100,000 men and pulled by dozens of spiritual beasts. That's Western Lands ambassador? Bailey Jingwei must have sniffed a weakness in Western Lands and wants to take a bite. Zhuo Fan looked at the large army from the shadows of the walls, snickering. Murong Shui said, How do you know Bailey Jingwei is after Western Lands? If it feels off and looks off, then it must be something off. The other lands' ambassadors aren't as armed. Care to know why? Murong Shui nodded, because all other ambassadors are second-rates while only ours has a prince included. Something is bound to happen in Western Lands. Zhuo Fan grinned. They say the prince is also. Huh. Just watch. Murong Shui watched curiously as the procession came to a stop at the gates. Luo Yunhai's group stepped forward and bowed. I am Alliance Leader Luo Yunhai and welcome the Central Area's ambassador. I am the Emperor of Tianyu, Yuan Song. Welcome. Yuan Song smiled while holding his empress' hand. There was no reply from the carriage, though a sinister laughter cracked up. Ha ha ha. Third brother. It's been ages. I almost forgot you were the emperor. Yuan Song shook all over as he glared at the carriage, still in disbelief of what he was hearing. That voice. Ha ha ha. Have you forgotten your own brother's voice? The door of the carriage opened and a man with sharp eyes stepped out. Yuan Song paled, his fingers shaky. Second brother? Everyone gasped. The emperor's second brother. It's that second Prince Yuan Yong that went missing? What's he doing back? He was being hunted for treason, and now. Third brother. You lost weight? Yuan Yong had a vile smile as he approached Yuan Song, patting his cheek twice. When I told you to get thin, you said you couldn't, gaining even from drinking water. How come you're so thin? Oh, I got it. It was an act. When seizing the throne, you played the innocent chubby to avoid suspicion. You fooled me and our elder brother. Now that you got to be emperor, there's no need for any pretense, is there? Ha ha ha. Clap. Yuan Yong made sure to slap hard enough to swell, laughing at his expense, driven by hatred. Old third. Aren't you tired of acting? You became emperor, but now what? Aren't you just a lapdog licking my boots? How dare you address His Majesty without proper respect? Long Kue shouted. Luo Yunhai scoffed. Ambassador, you represent the Central Area. Please watch yourself with Tianyu's emperor. Don't take it too far. Too far? The lord of some third-rate empire can compare to the glorious Sword Star Empire's deputy minister of war? Yuan Yong snickered. Alliance leader Luo, your Western lands' marshal. Half of it is yours, and you have my respect. As for his ex-lardness, what do you think the exalted double dragons would ever do to me? Yuan Yong gathered Yuan Qi in his palm. Luo Yunhai panicked and grabbed it. What are you doing? Just stretching. Alliance leader Luo, lighten up. I'm not about to cause trouble as the Central Area's ambassador, humph. Yuan Yong rolled his shoulder like he really was stretching. His hand slipped from Luo Yunhai's hold and sent a taunting and sinister look. Luo Yunhai gnashed his teeth, his face dark. Yuan Song took a deep breath, bowing while straining to hold it in. After you, Ambassador. Sure, Your Majesty. Yuan Yong showed a malicious smile, signaling the troops, enter the city, but be careful. Prince of Harvest is sleeping, and we don't want to disturb him, or heads will roll. Yes, sir. The army rumbled onwards with dozens of carriages. Yuan Song's group was filled with fury and revulsion. The Sword Star Empire's ambassador was Western Land's guest, and they could do nothing against him. The same happened in the past in this nation. But regardless of the discontent, never had it been the emperor suffering for it, though this time. It was the ambassador of the largest empire in the central area hitting the emperor of a third-rate nation. Chapter 1139. Trail. Chapter 1139. Trail. Proofreader. Papatonks. The Sword Star Empire's delegation entered the imperial capital, leaving Yuan Song's group behind like dirt. Zhua Fan nodded. To think it's Yuan Yong of all people. The former brash and reckless fool has smoothened out into a calculating man. Ha ha ha, time does change everything. The most Double Dragon manner can do when irate is to drive them out. For humiliating the delegation meant war with the Sword Star Empire, which none of the four lands had the nerve to risk. The Luo Alliance has no choice but to swallow this up. If it's only some rudeness, they could just pull through. However, Zhua Fan left. Miss Murong, we're keeping an eye on the garrison. There's no way Yuan Yong came to Tianyu just to take it out on the emperor. Murong Shui rushed after him. She got so used to following Zhua Fan, she did it out of reflex, so she could take in humanity in all its shades of gray. 6 hours later, the sun came down so the moon could take its rightful place. The imperial capital was decorated and dazzling, a different fervor setting in from daytime at the garrison. A fat man paced around, bored as Hell Creek. Yuan Yong stepped in, bowing. Deputy Minister Yuan Yong greets Prince of Harvest. Sir Yuan, you're finally here. I'm sick of staying all day in the carriage. Yuan Yong sat at the table, with the fatty coming over like an eager child. I did what you said and didn't accept anyone's invitation. Tonight you have to entertain me. The Prime Minister had me listen to you, but you can't just turn me into a prisoner. Yuan Yong smirked, his eyes shining with malice. No worries, Your Highness. I understand your plight. You're going to love it tonight. Really? Hee. Thanks, Sir Yuan. Prince of Harvest had a knowing smile. Twisting his fat fingers, Yuan Yong grinned. Taking out civilian clothes, Your Highness, you're very precious and would draw attention. Change into these, then we can have fun. I'll have 2 men cover for you so no one finds out and shames us. I got it. The Prime Minister cares about this and I won't let him down. The prince changed and was a bundle of excitement as he walked outside. Sir Yuan, you're nice. Once we get back, I'll be sure to put in a good word with the Prime Minister. The Prince of Harvest left, with 2 guards watching him. Yuan Yong's grin widened. Put a good word? Haha, how pointless. Sir Yuan, Emperor Yuan invites you and Prince of Harvest to a feast. A guard knocked on the door. Yuan Yong said, I know. His Highness doesn't feel well, so I'll be going alone. Understood. The man left. Yuan Yong straightened his clothes and set off. Zhua Fan slipped out of the shadows. Murong Shui asked, going to the Imperial Palace? No, after the idiot prince. He's pivotal. Zhua Fan's eyes shone and Murong Shui followed after him. An hour later, there was one particular building, lavishly decorated and filled with cheerful noises. It had a plaque 10 meters high and very conspicuous fragrant manner. Prince of Harvest muttered, showing a degenerate smile as he approached. Hee, I feel right at home. Paradise, fairies and ladies, here I come. Prince of Harvest was like a beast in heat, going straight in. His guards grinned behind him. Prince of Harvest was soon surrounded by cherry lips as he entered a room. He waved the 2 and they offered a bottle. Prince of Harvest drank it and his eyes went bloodshot as he roared, Tonight, I'll be taking on 100 people. Who shall face me? Haha. Bam! The doors shut and moans, clamor and shrieks came out from behind it. The 2 guards stood outside, sharing a knowing smile. Our good prince likes nothing else but to engage in such activities. We're going in? Murong Shui glanced at the shut doors from the shadows, and it was obvious what was going on behind them. reddening. Fan smirked. All the more reason we need to enter. What's the point of tailing only to give up at the climax? How obscene. Murong Shui glared at him with red ears and a hot face. How is that? I can't see what's happening in there. Now can I? I can only guess based on those constant creaking and moans. How's it any different from looking from outside? Why enter then? To be on the safe side. My eyes aren't what they used to be, and I can't leave anything unturned. Fan turned to mist and flew inside. The door opened and closed so fast and so little that the guards were oblivious. Murong Shui blushed red-hot, tensing as she forced herself to go as well. The door clicked close and the guards felt something going in. But seeing nothing, they ignored it. She hid with Fan in a corner, the degenerate sounds grating her ears. Fan didn't even twitch even after 2 hours. The noises kept going strong, with the Prince of Harvest turning into an animal and howling like a savage. The girls all groaned and cried under his brutality. Murong Shui bit her lip, glaring at Fan and whisper shouting, "Haven't you found anything after all this time?" "I did." "What?" "He must have taken something to have boundless stamina." Fan nodded like a sage. Murong Shui's face twitched. "I'm talking about Bailey Jingwei's scheme here. I'm looking for that as well, but I haven't found anything." "What a bummer." "I can only hear," Fan sighed. Devastated. Murong Shui was fuming. "Mad pervert. Watch then, for I'm going." But then, a person got thrown in through the window, looking either dead or unconscious. "There it is." Fan grinned. Any man seeking relief, even if under a stimulant, would not turn into a mindless animal. What was the point? Prince of Harvest is about to go raving mad. His drink spiked to numb his mind. "I think it's Bailey Jingwei's doing." "What do you think, Miss Murong?" Murong Shui was puzzled. "What are you thinking about?" Fan asked, but then nodded. "Ew, that's just nasty. I may be a demon, but I have my principles and never dual cultivated. Yet you actually I never imagined." "You." Murong Shui lowered her head in shame. "Rotten bastard. He's toying with me." Then the newcomer stirred and groaned. Murong Shui started at the sounds. "Is it that child?" "Siphon." Fan sighed. The crazed Prince of Harvest picked up on the girl's voice and turned with bloodshot eyes. He howled and threw himself at her. "Here comes another. Ha ha ha." A finger flick hit the deranged man, and he froze on the spot. Fan lowered his hand. Murong Shui was about to go. "I'll take the girl. She shouldn't be here, ruining her good name." "Pa." Fan gripped her shoulder. Earning an odd look from her, Luo Siphon stirred awake, and Fan pointed at Prince of Harvest so he could move again. The pretty girl aroused all his senses, howling as he jumped her. The pain and hurt his body endured had no way of breaking through his drug-addled mind. Still, getting his feet under him with a loony smile and greedy eyes. Completing the picture was the constant blood coming from his mouth, mixed with bits and pieces from his innards. Luo Siphon's brow shook hard, unable to look at the ghastly figure. Who is this freak? He's like the living dead. Doesn't he feel any pain? He. Prince of Harvest twisted his body, taking another step for Luo Siphon. Blood poured out of him still, driven by only one instinct, to mate. The innocent girl felt sick to her stomach, opting to dodge this time. The doors burst open just then, and the 2 guards flew in, followed by 2 new people, Sister Siphon. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang had arrived, watching Prince of Harvest's bizarre shape going for Luo Siphon had them in shock just then. "Who the hell are you? Don't touch her." The 2 coordinated perfectly, one with a palm, the other with a kick, striking the vitals of the beaten prince. Long Jianshan was ruthless enough to even go for Prince of Harvest's heart, punching a hole in the fat man's chest. Xian Yinyang did an overhead kick, right at the face, removing the head from that gross body. Blood gushed everywhere, while the headless Prince of Harvest twitched once before splattering in his own blood. "That was my claw. I saved Siphon." "That was my kick. I saved Sister Siphon." Ignoring the corpse, the 2 stared daggers at each other, then rushed at Luo Siphon's side. "Sister Siphon, are you all right?" With a blank face, Luo Siphon finally snapped awake, pointing at the corpse. Who is he?" "Prince." A cry came before they could reply. The 2 guards turned their gaping expressions from the blood to the 3 as they spewed fire. You have some nerve to kill Sword Star Empire's Prince of Harvest. You killed the Sword Star Empire's envoy and have declared war on us, Sword Star Empire's envoy. The trio shook all over, then went slack from shock. We're done for. Zhuofan chuckled from the shadows. Oh, the brats are in for it now. Huh. Is this Bailey Jingwei's plan? Dragging Western lands into a war? If it were that easy, he wouldn't be Bailey Jingwei. War? He can't suffer from it. Ha ha ha, Zhuofan waved her off. Walking away, Bailey Jingwei has started, and so shall I. I've waited 100 years for this. Wu Randong, your bitter wait is at an end. In the brightly lit Imperial Palace, with 3 rows of guards inside and another 3 outside, making it foolproof, Yuan Yong attended the banquet held for the Sword Star Empire delegates, ridiculing, "Third brother, it's been ages since my last feast in the Imperial Palace. It feels awfully foreign. Since when did a third-rate empire have soul harmony guards? And dozens of them, too. Third brother, you've sure gotten the empire far, huh? Imperial brother, there's no need for hazing. The Luo Alliance sent the guards for your protection. I am but the lord of a meager empire, and have no right to have even one soul harmony expert in my employ. To be frank, Master is only at the 5th layer of ethereal stage." Yuan Tsong spoke coldly. Luo Yunhai's group stared hard at him. Yuan Yong sneered. Fangqiubai? Isn't he Tianyu's divine dragon? Why is he such a disappointment? Only 5th layer ethereal stage? That's my level. Ha ha ha, brother is Sword Star Empire's Deputy Minister of War, enjoying lush resources, unlike our barren lands. It's normal for brother to outdo master. Yuan Yong nodded. Right you are, brother. Central area's environment is way better than here. Take the lowest official in the central area, and you still won't find any weaker than the emperor here. In face of such an empty taunt, Yuan Tsong smiled. To each his own ambition. Some like to be the head of something, however small, while others prefer to bask in the glorious stool of others, to smell their stench. There's no forcing one's nature. Sometimes, not just any can be a leader, no matter how much they try. The bite Yuan Yong placed in his mouth shook, his face darkening from fury. You have guts, Yuan Tsong. Luo Yunhai was stern, while the guards drew around the emperor. Yuan Yong's fury abated, snickering at everyone's tense looks. Brother, why do I feel these guards aren't here to keep me safe, but you instead? Brother, by no means do I deserve such honor. Ignoring the empty formality, Yuan Yong's eyes shone. Sometimes, the guards' level matters not when they protect the wrong asset. Luo Yunhai's face fell, staring hard with a frown. What's that supposed to mean? Chapter 1141. Ruse. Chapter 1141. Ruse. Proofreader. Papatonks. There's huge trouble. Panicked cries echoed out into the hall from outside, making everyone frown. Yuan Yong was the only one still sneering. The one howling staggered inside, and Yuan Tsong shouted at him, "What's all this fuss? Speak clearly about what happened." "Yes, Your Majesty." The man wiped his heavy brow and bowed. Still shaken up, "Your Majesty, Sword Star Empire's envoy, Prince of Harvest Bali Yuming Ws. Was what?" Everyone's hearts sank as Yuan Tsong howled. The man cried as he bowed. "Killed? What?" Yuan Yong smacked the table as he raged. "What did you say? What happened to the Prince of Harvest?" The man shook all over. The envoy, Prince of Harvest, was killed? Absurd. How could this have happened? Yuan Yong raved and looked around. Do any of you have any idea who Prince of Harvest is? He is the 15th grandson of His Imperial Majesty, bestowed the title of Prince at the age of 18, out of deep love. He was sent to the Western lands to entrust you with his safety and learn of the world. But you had an assassin at every corner I see. Sword Star Empire will not stand for this. Everything that comes is on you. Everyone's heart was in their throats. The Central Area envoy, a prince no less, was killed here. They had to answer for it, unable to escape such dire consequences. Yuan Tsong pondered. Brother, it's too early to assume. You said that the prince was unwell and can't attend the feast. Then he must be in his quarters. How could he be assassinated? Yeah, the guards there are thorough. Not only deputies' men, but also Luo alliances. How could there be a hit? Luo Yunhai spoke with conviction. Yuan Yong mocked. How should I know? Where was Prince of Harvest attacked? Yuan Yong looked with disdain at the man. Sir, Prince of Harvest was murdered at Fragrant Manor. Fragrant Manor, a brothel? Yuan Tsong let it slip and earned the ire of his empress, Long Kuei, who whispered, What's with that quick reaction in calling it a brothel? Do you know it? No, not at all. I just heard about it. Yeah, from Xiao Lizi. Haha. Him? Won't an eunuch feel crushed going there? Long Kuei had a cruel smile. Yuan Tsong gulped and switched topics. Empress, this isn't the time for trifles. The envoy is dead, with heavy implications. We must ascertain the truth. Brother, why did the Prince of Harvest, safe in his quarters, appear in a brothel? Is there something we should know? Yuan Tsong spoke earnestly. This is no longer a matter of protection. We can't protect him if your envoy goes wherever without telling us. We need to be aware of his every move, be it the brothel or the bathroom. Luo Yunhai gave the emperor a thumbs up. The emperor ain't just for show, so quick to shirk the blame. The empress did not complain further. Knowing this was matters of national security, Yuan Yong rubbed his beard, his eyes flashing. Guard, execute all who were on duty. What's the point of them if they can't even notice the prince sneaking out? Yes. A man next to him bowed and ran off. Yuan Yong glanced at Yuan Tsong. Satisfied with my unbiased decision, brother? Who's at fault will get the blame. I know how to be fair. I have no comment. Yuan Tsong refused to reply. Yuan Yong looked at the man he sent. Though the guards are punished for neglecting their duty, they're not to blame for the murder. Now, who was it that killed the prince? Have you caught the outrageous criminal? Yes, but the man hesitated. Glancing at Luo Yunhai's heart sank with unease. Yuan Yong demanded, Stop blabbering and bring them here. Let us see who had the nerve to commit such a treasonous act. Yes. The man nodded and sighed as he went to pass the order. 5 people came in. Escorted by many guards, Luo Yunhai cried out, Siffin, Dad. Luo Siffin teared up, looking victimized along with Long Jianshan and Xianyang. Alliance leader, what's the meaning of this? What did they do this time? You're supposed to bring the criminal, not a girl. Yuan Yong said. The obvious Prince of Harvest guards bowed and pointed at them. Deputy sir, these 3 killed the prince. The body is outside, scattered. What? Luo Yunhai gasped. It can't be. The 3 lowered their heads, admitting with their silence. Luo Yunhai held his head, with Yuan Tsong growing restless. What's with this girl getting involved in this huge problem? A ruse must be at play here. Yuan Yong snickered, his hand gushing with yuan qi. Since we have the culprits and it's due to our neglect, I shall do away with the criminals and not trouble you. Ha ha ha. Yuan Yong's hand came down on Luo Siffin's head. Luo Siffin cried out in fright, the attack stopping inches from her hair. She cracked a frightened eyelid to see her father gripping the deadly attack with fury. Peak Soul Harmony Alliance leader, a man among men deserving his name, Humph. Yuan Yong's face shook, pain stabbing his hand as he released his attack, yet challenging Luo Yunhai. Alliance leader, what's this? You ought to know this matter involves the envoy and shouldn't be biased. I killed the guilty guards and killing the culprits should be the best resolution for you. Luo Yunhai took a deep breath, not releasing his grip, showing the deep worry plaguing his heart. Yuan Yong laughed. Alliance leader, are you impeding me in exacting judgment on the culprits? The Sword Star Empire won't stand for it. Central Area and Western lands will be at war because of you. Are you ready to take on such a burden? Brother Yunhai, Yuan Tsong cried out, figuring something out. What has niece been doing in a brothel? What exactly happened? Luo Yunhai came to, finding a lifeline, and asked, Yes, what were you doing there? Dad, I don't know how, but as we walked around the city, someone knocked me out. The next thing I knew, some naked man jumped me and I smacked him back. I fended him off dozens of times but didn't kill him. Luo Siffin pleaded her innocence. Long Jianshan and Xianyang bobbed their heads. Yes, Alliance leader, we chased the black figure, unable to catch him as he toyed with us. Then we reached a building where we heard Sister Siffin's screams and ran there. But the 2 guards at the door wouldn't let us in. and we had to fight our way in. What we saw inside was a weird thing jumping Siphon. I acted without realizing, running my hand through his chest. I sent his head flying with a kick. Xian Yinyang admitted. We had no way of knowing he was the prince. Everyone knew then and there. It's a ruse, clear as day. Luo Yunhai glared at Yuan Yong, gnashing his teeth. Sir Yuan, you come at me. Do not drag children into this. You didn't like how Dan Qingshan couldn't take my head, did you? Alliance leader, what are you saying? Everyone knows it's between you and Dan Qingshan. I represent an empire as a peaceful envoy. Why would I ever want the great marshal of the Western lands dead? Yuan Yong's words dripped with cruelty. You need to stop being so biased. Brats, you said someone did this to you. Well, where is he? The three lowered their heads in defeat. Chapter 1142, Pretext. Chapter 1142, Pretext. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yuan Yong laughed, his eyes sharp. With no one around, you have no proof. For all I know, you could be making it up to save your hide. While your heavy crime of killing the prince is undoubtedly clear, we all heard you admit it. You're guilty and deserve to die. Yuan Yong snickered as he turned to Luo Yunhai, Alliance leader. Is there something you wish to say? Luo Yunhai had a dark look on his face. I just want to know what Prince of Harvest was doing in the brothel. Yeah, how? With such a tight guard around, Yuan Yong had an answer ready. Turning to the two guards catching on, they cupped his hands. Deputy sir, the prince's character is known to all our people. Having come here as an envoy and unable to bring company, the prince had been feeling down these long days of travel. Now that we got to a big city, he disguised himself with normal clothes and slipped out. None here knew of the Lord's true identity, with only us following him. He was quite free, but then, I see, you didn't let the prince out today, just so he could go bed someone tonight. Luo Yunhai fumed at Yuan Yong. He knew then that with such a big welcome they held, the prince had just to show his face and everyone would know him for who he was. Their scouts would tail him from the shadows and make sure to keep him safe. Yuan Yong grinned cruelly, mocking, Alliance leader, you shouldn't accuse someone without proof. I won't hear it. Everyone here knows our prince had been bottling up his needs for so long and just wanted to let loose. But at the brothel, these brats killed him without reason. It was my duty to dole out punishment to the lax guards. The prince had no restraint over his lower head and got himself killed. What's left is to punish the killers then, Alliance leader. I'll be taking the brats if you wouldn't mind. Yuan Yong flicked his hand and guards went for the kids. Luo Yunhai shouted while defending them. Let's see you try. Whoosh. In moments, many experts had Yuan Yong and his men surrounded instead. This being Luo Alliance's turf, Yuan Yong cared not. For his aim was achieved, Alliance leader. And what is this? Yuan Yong waved. I'm a Central Area envoy, a guest to Western lands that came here brokering peace. Our prince might have died without reason in your home, but we still have to be fair and not let this harm our talks. We only wish to give the Prince of Harvest justice. The same for anyone, regardless of status, a life for a life. Everyone in the world agrees to this logic, and yet the Luo clan, hailed as righteous and loyal, can't? Or maybe you'd like the Central Area to drill it into you. Luo Yunhai's face twitched in anger, a vein popping from strain. No matter what, no one will lay a finger on them, or they'll have to deal with me. My Alliance leader, that's some fire in you. In broad daylight, clearly shielding criminals and ruining the peace between our lands. Looking at him, then at the sky, Yuan Yong chuckled. I thought Double Dragon Manor answered for Western lands. But now I see the times have changed, with the Luo Alliance taking over. Heart sank in panic, knowing he was throwing blame around just so the two would be at each other's throat. Yuan Song waved. Brother, please don't say nonsense. The Luo Alliance handling this area and Western lands defenses were agreed upon by everyone. Double Dragon Manor entrusted them with this duty. With such a serious situation, it's only proper for the Alliance leader to make a thorough investigation. It's all within his right. Right? Humph. Yuan Yong mocked. What right would that be, when the three culprits are related to him, yet he gets to investigate? Not to mention, the truth is clear as day. Investigate what then? Alliance leader's reaction is clearly that of harboring them. Yuan Yang's accusation only grew wilder and wilder. Luo Yunhai was silent, stewing in rage. Fine. This is Luo Alliance's turf, and we're just a group of delegates, unable to take the criminals from Luo Alliance. Let's go. Being at odds for a while, Yuan Yang smiled in the end, calling his men back. I'll be sure to report this to the Empire and the Double Dragon Manor. Let's see what they have to say. I only wanted to handle this quietly, on account of Tianyu being my homeland, but you just keep fighting me on this. Now you'll suffer for it, humph. Yuan Yang glared at Luo Yunhai one last time. Laughing as he walked out, Yuan Song panicked at the thought of making this matter bigger. Rushing after Yuan Yang, brother, wait, please don't. Yuan Yang got what he wanted and saw no reason to waste words on the other. He rushed back, eager to send his report. Prime Minister, the first step is complete, humph. 2 jade slips streaked the sky with their green light, reaching Bailey Jingwei and Double Dragon Manor in 3 days. That was the moment all the land's leaders came to know of Alliance leader Luo's daughter's crimes, to which Bailey Jingwei had his response ready from the start. Zither Sword King led 5 million soldiers of the Empire to ramp up the pressure on the border between the two lands. Readying for war, bastard, this is just a pretext of Bailey Jingwei to take it out on Western lands. Bam! In the Double Dragon Manor, Exalted Hei Ran slapped the table, holding 2 jade slips in the other, one reporting the events, the other being Yuan Yang's accusations. It just happened, yet they already have men at the border? It was premeditated without question. Exalted by Mei sighed with a frown. Yes, I did say there was something off about the 4 lands envoys. It was all a ruse. But why must it be us? The other lands are doing well, as if to state we're the ones at fault. We shouldn't have agreed to letting the envoy in the first place. What's the point of saying that now? Send the other 3 lands messages that we need to work together. Exalted Hei Ran rolled his eyes. Exalted by Mei nodded. That's all we can do. At least 5 million isn't a lot. It doesn't look like Bailey Jingwei is ready for war. Double Dragon Manor's plea for help reached the other lands. Alas, relations weren't as good as before. Did they think Bailey Jingwei sent some pushovers to the other 3 lands? No renowned official he sent was weak in his book. That was for sure. A month passed, finding Zhuo Fan on his throne in a gloomy hall. Murong Shui was by his side, overlooking him laying out his meticulous plan. Below was the second young master of Serene Shores Trading, the envoy of Devil Palace, Wu Randong. This is what I want you to do? You got all that? You'll have to endure for a bit. Zhuo Fan spoke. Wu Randong's brow moved as he bowed, looking excited. Palace Lord, I've been waiting for this day for too long. Sir could even cast me aside and I'd still be at peace with it. It's not casting you out, but the winning move. Zhuo Fan grinned. What about the Luo clan? How are they faring? They should be ready to give. Wu Randong bowed. Palace Lord is correct. The Luo clan is stuck, assaulted from all sides. Double Dragon Manor asked for help from the other lands, but were quickly rejected. Why would the 4 lands, united against the central area, sit back in Western lands' time of need? Murong Shui frowned. Even interdependent, they shouldn't just let Western lands go to war. Zhuo Fan shook his head, saying to Wu Randong, share the details with her. Yes, Palace Lord. Wu Randong bowed, speaking gravely. Miss Murong, the 3 lands are in opposition in this matter and not a whole, all because the central area holds the moral high ground. Murong Shui asked, moral? To an empire, the envoy represents a nation's ruler. To sects, he represents a sect leader's authority. To the land's powers, he is a proxy to the highest power. By killing him, it's like killing the ruler he represents. No one could accept this, unless you're out for war. Killing an enemy's envoy is like killing their leader. Wu Randong continued. That's why this matter is taken as being the Luo clan's fault by any and all in the 3 lands, while the central area is in the right. Adding to this, the central area's envoys are in their lands, all the reason why the 3 lands are finding it hard to step in. Chapter 1143. I'll bear it. Chapter 1143. I'll bear it. Proofreader. Papatonks. Zhuo Fan nodded. This is morality, and the apparent righteousness all people have. It's universal law for one to repay with life or money for a crime. It stands at the core of every human, the basis of any human society. Without it, humans would be scattered, let alone having the common interest the four lands once had. That's why no one can oppose such a principle, for it's like denying yourself. As the Luo clan had no hard proof for their innocence, none would be taking their side. Palace lords' talk of principle is the deepening discrepancy between the three lands. That is, whether or not it's worth helping the Luo clan. By siding with them in the open, it's like throwing away the sense of justice all people have. By turning a deaf ear, they fear the central area would use this chance to remove one of their allies. Adding to that, the central area's envoys are in their homes, so they can hardly show any support, while also talking it out with the envoys in hope of diffusing this problem. That's precisely why war must have a good pretext. One must have the moral high ground, or else the one at threat would be himself. Zhuo Fan smiled. Though every land fears the Empire's war, when there's no need to. Bailey Jingwei is so cautious and subtle, meaning the Sword Star Empire's frail stability would crack the minute any large deployment is made. For that reason, he only sent 5 million soldiers at the border, to intimidate and bluster. Wu Randong nodded. Palace Lord is correct. Bailey Jingwei is now aware of Devil Palace and can no longer wage war on a grand scale like before. Though his scare tactic is no less believable to the lands, the four lands are a shadow of themselves a century ago, suffering heavy losses. Zhuo Fan's face hardened. That can only mean, to broker peace with Bailey Jingwei, they need a scapegoat. Miss Morong, we'll be going to the Luo clan again. If Yunhai recalls my actions, Bailey Jingwei's scheme will fall apart. But he isn't me. Zhuo Fan stood and walked, with Morong Shui on his heels. Wu Randong bowed. Safe travels, Palace Lord. In the heart of Luo Alliance, everyone was looking pensive, waiting for Double Dragon Manor's message, and trying to come up with a solution on their own. They kept coming back to the killing of Prince of Harvest. It was the only reason why the central area could show their might and send troops to intimidate despite the lands being against it. With the kids killing Prince of Harvest out in the open, the Empire coming for justice was only proper. They could say it was a trap all along. But the schemer was also sure to tie up any loose ends. That guy in black who took Luo Sifan was gone. With so many guards among the delegation, anyone could have put on a disguise and led the kids away. It's impossible. Zhuge Changfeng shook his head, worried as much as the other two. Bailey Jingwei must have set it up, but why? Is it just to target us? Even if we admit it, what then? It'll only take out some scapegoats. One prince for the life of 3 kids? Why would he do that? Lung Wuchang was solemn. It's obvious he's not after the brats with such a twisted trick. He knows Clanhead would never give them up. Lung Wuchang glanced at the pensive Luo Yunhai. Luo Sifan was in her mother's embrace, looking at her father with tears in her eyes. Whoosh. When Tao and Wu Qingqiu rushed in, how is it? Luo Yunhai jumped to his feet and welcomed them. What did the Exalted say? The two found it hard to speak, with Wu Qingqiu starting, Brother Yunhai. We're the ones at fault, while Bailey Jingwei had kept talking with the 3 lands to stay out of it. They take it as being against the 4 lands' common interest and nothing more than a personal grudge, while hoping of diffusing this problem to avoid war. The Exalted each man for themselves, to sacrifice them for the Western lands' peace. If the matter isn't settled, they would keep pushing us and the other 3 lands leaving us aside. I knew it. Zhuge Changfeng leaned back in his chair with a sigh. Luo Sifan cried in her mother's embrace. Mom. Sifan, it's all right. I won't let anything happen to you. Rubbing her back, Yuer's heart was torn as well. Luo Yunhai gnashed his teeth. In other words, the Exalted want my daughter to take the blame to make the central area retreat? The two hung their heads. Don't they know she's been set up? Luo Yunhai howled. Wu Qingqiu sighed. Anyone can see what is going on. But without proof, the central area had the pretext to wage war while the other lands have no reason to intervene. How could they help? Helping Luo Alliance harbor criminals? No leader of the 3 lands would ever accept this. The war must be right, even if on the surface. It's not about the lands standing united. It's about reason. When Tao patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder, Brother Yunhai, sorry, we're unable to give much help. Luo Yunhai's brow shook, looking at his crying daughter. His eyes shone and stormed out. No one chased him. Maybe Alliance leader needs time to calm down. 5 million soldiers wasn't many, but they had a sword king leading them. When the war started, the death toll would be huge, something none from Western lands wanted to happen. 3 days later, Yuan Yong walked in the dead of night through a gloomy forest. When someone popped in front of him, Yuan Yong smiled and cupped his hands. Alliance leader Luo, was it you that asked me to see me here? What would Alliance leader ask of me on this perfect night for murder? Let the children go. Luo Yunhai glared at him. Yuan Yong cackled. What's this, Alliance leader? It's a heavy crime for her to kill the Empire's precious prince. With the entire affair so huge, you just want me to let your daughter go? You're barking at the wrong tree. I'm just an envoy, a messenger. I don't have the authority to pardon a national criminal. Spare me the theatrics. We're the only ones here. Why are you doing this? Luo Yunhai shouted. Yuan Yong looked around, showing his sneaky grin. Nothing, really. Our intent was plain from the start, to exact justice for Prince of Harvest. Take the culprits and punish them. Yuan Yong emphasized his words, reading Luo Yunhai's face. The kids didn't do crap. There's no point in taking them. Luo Yunhai caught his drift, squinting. I'll go with you. Bailey Jingwei is after me, isn't he? Then I'll go with you to the central area. Yuan Yong chuckled. To the central area? The Great Alliance leader Luo, with half of Western lands behind you, there's absolutely no reason to kidnap the mighty marshal. This would make your friends attack, and we'll start another world war all over again. Although I haven't been in Western lands for many years, I also know very well that the Luo Alliance puts benevolence first and has many allies. Touching you is like poking the hornet's nest. Shove it. Don't you need a pretext? Luo Yunhai sneered. I made the brats kill Prince of Harvest. They're just like assassins that listen to my orders. I'll bear this blame. Take me, the main culprit, while leaving those nobodies aside. Yuan Yong stared in those firm eyes and chuckled. Is this true? My word is my bond. Great. Since the Alliance leader said it, I'll oblige. But no take-backsies. Yuan Yong snickered, his eyes shining. Alliance leader, after you. Though you should know, the 5 million strong army at the border won't leave until you enter our empire's lands. You don't have to tell me. Luo Yunhai was calm, walking forward. Yuan Yong followed with a winning smile. In the morning of the next day, the delegation sent word to all Western lands a most shocking news. The Alliance leader Luo, Marshal Luo Yunhai, instigated the death of Prince of Harvest, and Deputy Yuan Yong was taking him back to execute him. Chapter 1144. Trend. Chapter 1144. Trend. Proofreader. Papatonks. Whoosh. As Yuan Yong's delegation was set to leave, thousands upon thousands of men had the tiny Tianyu imperial capital surrounded. Ready for war, Yuan Yong snorted and glanced at unconcerned Luo Yunhai. Alliance leader, I told you that you have many friends. We haven't even started and they came. Humph? Friends, step aside please. Luo Yunhai caught on and stepped forward with a bow and cupped hands. Thank you all for your intentions towards me and the Luo Alliance. But the central area and Western lands are on the path to war because of me. Giving my life for Western lands is my duty. I ask that everyone accepts. Luo Yunhai bowed once more. The huge crowd replied in kind. We respect Alliance leader Luo's righteousness. Dad. Luo Sifin rushed out of the ranks, going for her father. Dad, it's all my fault. I should take the blame. It isn't yours to carry. Luo Yunhai smiled. Sifin, it had nothing to do with you. They were after me. Why else were they so quick to accept me taking the blame? Now go back. Don't let this hold you back. It'll all be fine. Dad. Luo Sifin sobbed. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang approached, looking forlorn with their hung heads. Luo Yunchang, Yuer, and Zhuge Changfeng wanted to get their clan head home, but they knew his mind was set and did not say anything. Only Yuer came next to Luo Yunhai, holding his hand. I'm going with you. Yuer. Ever since we held hands for the first time, we never separated. Yuner smiled as she turned to Luo Yunchang. Sister, I'll leave Sifin in your care. Luo Yunchang's eyes shook, looking long at the couple, and gave a painful nod. Mom. YouTube. Luo Sifin cried harder, crushed from sorrow. Yuer rubbed her cheek with a smile. Once together, only death will do us part. Siphon, I won't ever leave your father. I'm sorry for not looking after you. Dad, Mom, Luo Siphon cried harder. Luo Yunchang and Yuer exchanged looks, and the latter knocked her out to let Luo Yunchang take her to their relief. Luo Yunchang took the girl and returned to the crowd. But Luo Yunchang was also struggling, closing her eyes shut as tears fell down her cheeks, her heart breaking with every step. I'll leave the Luo clan to you, stewards. Luo Yunhai saluted Zhuge Changfeng and the others, leaving with Yuan Yang's escort. In their travels, any with even a bit of honor would see them go. They all knew the Luo clan was framed. That was why Luo Yunhai took the blame from his daughter to settle the tense situation. He had earned everyone's respect and admiration with his selfless act. Yuan Song and every sect leader, including the former enemy Qin Hao from Qin society, all known figures came to see Luo Yunhai off, the greatest meeting in Western lands. It caused a great shock in even Yuan Yong. Luo Alliance has far greater clout in Western lands than I thought. The only one missing is Double Dragon Manor. From a dark corner, Shuafan watched with a shaking head. Oh, those old coots, they won't even put up a token of effort? Humph, he is giving his life for Western lands, and by not showing even the slightest intention, they'll only earn the people's ire. You won't step in to save him? Luo Yunhai didn't die to Danqing Shun, but will now be executed in the Sword Star Empire capital. Morong Shui teased. Chuafan shook his head. You think Bailey Jingwei fanned the flames so hard and even brought an army just for the measly Luo Alliance leader? Haha, a pawn is only a pawn in your hand. Once crushed, it's worthless. Yunhai won't die in the Empire, for he has plenty of worth. How could Bailey Jingwei do away with him before squeezing him for all his worth? You mean Bailey Jingwei is on the move? Yep, with Yunhai in his control, he ought to have enough pieces to act. Only when he moves, I can move too. Zhuafan sighed. 100 years passed. Yet the four lands leaders have not made an ounce of progress, Bailey Jingwei playing them like a fiddle. Morong Shui chuckled. Oh, is there another way of handling this matter? I find Luo Yunhai's sacrifice for the good of others is honorable. How would you handle it? Humph, giving your life for peace is honorable, sure, but it's not to settle things. It's because he had no choice. Bailey Jingwei forced him into a corner. Zhuafan shook his head. Miss Morong, what you and Yunhai along with many value honor, it is in fact a great flaw. In the end, people harm themselves. Why do you say that? Oh, I did say I was going to tell you a story. This is the perfect setting. Care to listen? Zhuafan didn't wait for her answer, getting right to it. Once upon a time, there were two warring kingdoms. They both had prisoners of war and sometimes exchanged them, while most of the time employed them as slaves. One kingdom decreed that any who brought back their fellow people would be rewarded. And so, many merchants traveled to the enemy kingdom and had no trouble buying some prisoners of war to bring back, receiving glory and wealth. But one man among them refused, more than happy to hand the wealth over to the officials. What do you think of him? Morong Shui frowned, honorable and kind, not minding little remuneration, and a man of virtue. This is the righteousness you know, right? Yes. Morong Shui nodded. Zhuafan laughed. The story has yet to end. When this same man you consider virtuous and honorable returned to his master and gave his report filled with pride, how do you think the master reacted? If the master was just as upright, he would praise him. He was upright, true, garnering respect, but he did not shower the disciple in praise, instead giving him 2 slaps. Ha ha ha. Why? It totally baffled Morong Shui. Zhuafan snickered. That's the same reaction the disciple had. He helped people, for neither profit nor fame. So where did he do wrong? His master replied that after the law was placed, people could earn a fortune for redeeming prisoners of war and fame along with respect of others. But what about those that refuse the reward? It takes money to redeem prisoners of war, but when you ask for a reward, it may seem like your honor and decency is being questioned. Saving people from misery has nothing to do with honor or decency. And by not being rewarded for the hard work, who will still do it? Just like the man who redeemed without reward, thinking he was doing good, when in fact, when people see him as an example, who would go back to redeem prisoners? Losing money and the chance of fame is a lose-lose deal. This leads to no prisoners being bought back, living the rest of their lives in misery and torment. So then, is such an act righteous or evil? Stunned speechless, Murong Shui was lost for words. The righteousness you hold dear may not be in the people's benefit. The evil you believe may also not be in detriment to life. Whoosh! His hand shone and revealed white paper between the two. Zhuofan grinned. Like this paper, I see my side as righteous and you see yours as righteous. But who is to say which is right, which is clearer? Ugh! Murong Shui's heart sank. Zhuofan laughed, dangling the paper. In the end, what we choose isn't right or wrong, but what we want to see your face. Once you see what others want to do, we just show it to them. Just like in the story, the goal is to redeem prisoners and save them from suffering. It's not to show off your moral values and pointless theatrics that are more of a hindrance than help, ha ha ha. But how are we to see what we want? By following the trend? Zhuofan grinned. Human nature is selfish, you can't deny it. The heart has demons, something else you can't deny. This, however, does not mean such a person isn't capable of virtue. Just like that law, sending everyone to redeem prisoners, making them do good while also fulfilling their desire for fame and fortune. This is the trend, what everyone yearns for. It's totally natural for a good man to be selfish. The righteous one holds isn't to purge one's demons, but embracing them instead, for righteous and demonic may not be in such contradictions to begin with. Chapter 1145, Answer. Chapter 1145, Answer. Proofreader, Papatonks. Murong Shui gave him a long look and a nod. In other words, anything is allowed, be it good or evil, as long as it follows a good trend. Going by the upright and honorable Miss Murong, that is your wish? Zhuofan smiled. Just like another tale. A thief entered a rich house to steal, only to find the owner deathly wounded and called for help, leading to his capture. But at the trial, he was released. The verdict read, I would rather have thieves saving lives than our world turned into a living hell, with none lending a hand. This is also a trend. Reason dictates that releasing a thief was against the law, but it gives birth to a trend, making life precious, far more precious than anything in the world. Like so, it would lead to the belief that even if one steals, he would do not harm. Those who harmed would be punished severely, while those who didn't will have lighter sentences. It's clearly his own evil machination, yet the trend made it honorable by saving lives as result. Thus, evil is evil, stealing is stealing, fighting is fighting, yet there would no longer be harmed people. Not for others, but for oneself. Murong Shui nodded numbly, her heart changing as she discovered a new way of looking at things. Zhuofan chuckled. Turning to the tide of people, returning to Yunhai, he took the blame to secure Western land's safety, an act both honorable and admirable. But after that, Bailey Jingwei's plan bears fruit. His plan? Making a crack in Western lands? Zhuofan spoke. Yunhai's development was too fast this past century, gaining too much attention from the Double Dragon Manor, still holding the last word in the Western lands. This is similar to the Luo clan's beginning. I went for quick growth then because I believed to lord over the rest in quick succession. But the Luo alliance is going even faster while lacking the ability to overcome others. As it is, it only lacks some heavyweights and it would replace Double Dragon Manor. In short, it only needs time. Seizing the boss seat has to be done fast, to minimize the danger. When I brought up the Luo clan, I played hard and fast, keeping it in the shadows, out of prying eyes. While the Luo alliance's intent had not just been found out, but decades in advance. While other factors played a role, Double Dragon Manor aren't open with their hostility, but it is there and growing. When Danqing Shan came and in the Prince matter, Double Dragon Manor wanted to cut the Luo alliance down to size, to crack it. A gap Bailey Jingwei is sure to use to slip right in. Murong Shui squinted. You mean Bailey Jingwei isn't starting a war with Western lands, but wants to drive a wedge? In war, the four lands unite, and there's also Devil Palace hiding in the central area. He'll never do it. Zhuofan continued, so he can only play in skirmishes, making a gap in Western lands, the hostility between the Luo alliance and Double Dragon Manor. This had yet to be nuanced until now, but today it has been cemented and would lead to a huge crack in Western lands' defenses. It's plain to see what influence the Luo alliance has in Western lands. Yunhai's fate is bound to raise discontent in the hearts of not just the Luo alliance, but many other factions in Western lands. Double Dragon Manor is the big leader of Western lands. He can lash out at the little guy all he wants, so long as they are in their house. While outside, he has to protect him. It's his job. It's public knowledge the Luo alliance suffered for nothing, and now Yunhai would suffer a fate he could not escape by taking all the blame. In this time of peril, Double Dragon Manor gave not a token of help, throwing the little guy to the wolves. What will the other little guys think? They'll be disappointed. The Luo alliance was threatening Double Dragon Manor, but at least play your role, easing the other little guys' hearts. That's why I wonder just how these old coots got to lead Western lands. Murong Shue's face twitched. The Exalted had towered over Western lands for thousands of years as men of virtue and honor. Unlike the devious and twisted guy you are, even if honorable, they have their own demons and desires, lust for fame and fortune. How could they just forget their duty just because they find Luo alliance an eyesore? True, the older the senior, the unsteadier the heart. Murong Shue sighed. Zhuofan nodded, then shook his head, though this isn't half bad either. At the very least, they talked it out with the other lands and didn't stone the Luo clan where it stood. This showed they knew good from bad, and greed had yet to cloud their judgment, just a mere omission. That's already kindness from a leader. If it were me. What? The Luo clan would have long since been ashes. Zhuofan said. Murong Shue sighed. The Luo clan must be thankful that they have you as a steward and not an enemy. By the way, didn't you say you have a solution? What is it? Oh, mine is a little blunt, something Miss Murong is sure to not like. Just say it. It's just a thought and not truly enacted either. I'm also much more tolerable now. Oh, then my answer is... Zhuofan showed his evil smile, stirring the entire alliance to duke it out regardless of bloodshed. Who do they think I am? I've gone through thick and thin, and they think they can chop me off like that? Bring it. Dong. Murong Shue blanked out, floored by Zhuofan's thuggish solution. That's your answer? It's like sending everyone to die for you. Ha ha ha. I told you that you wouldn't like it, and you said you could take it. Zhuofan said calmly. Miss Murong, that was a joke? But my solution can handle it in one move, fighting all the way. Have you ever heard of the bold fear the resolute, and the resolute fear the reckless? Sometimes, the scariest people around are the crazies. Nothing beats your crazy. Can the Luo alliance's strength do it? There's no need to. They only have to look like it to scare the other. In fact, it's no different from Bailey Jingwei's tactic. Zhuofan grinned. Miss Murong, do you still remember our talk at the beginning? Trend? Yes, that. Zhuofan said, the Luo alliance isn't even close to 1/10 of the central area's power, but a spark can trigger a great change. The Luo alliance with a few allies can hold at least 1/3 of Western land's power. How would Double Dragon Manor handle such force? Maybe ignore it and let the central area crush it, but then what will be left of Western lands? Without the Luo alliance, even with Western lands being Double Dragon Manors, they would earn nothing but ire. Could the other 3 lands stand still while Western lands goes through a bitter war? The loss of one land means the death of all. The others are sure to disregard any honor or fame then. This is a siege they have to hold out. So my solution is to hold Western lands hostage, thus all 4 lands, and by extension, everyone, to wage bitter war with me for my own benefit. But won't this lead to a world war like before, with heavy losses? Murong Shue's eyes shook. You're a lunatic, ignoring the consequences. Luo Yunhai is far more reasonable. Zhuofan said, he is indeed reliable, not wanting to let his family suffer. Ha ha ha, Miss Murong, you must have forgotten that central area is in no position to fight the 4 lands again. That's why Bailey Jingwei could only glare at my tactic without retaliation. There's your trend. The 5 lands would then have useless peace talks, and the prince died for nothing. You're twisted. Murong Shue huffed, though a smile played on her lips. Zhuofan's plan may look insane, but the results go in the right direction. This must be where righteousness and demonic intersect. If you figured it out, can't the Luo clan as well? It may not be that simple. Lung Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng aren't just for show, but they wouldn't mention it. Why not? They'd never propose something unless absolutely certain. Zhuofan sighed. A large deployment needs plenty of pawns. The Luo clan has too few. They don't know how big Devil Palace is and if they would work together, nor do they know Bailey Jingwei's limit, and if they themselves can sustain such a plan. With so many unknowns, the most important is in the end their apprehension, drawing Double Dragon Manor and other lands' leaders' fury that would burn the Luo clan to the ground at some point. This strategy would never come for those playing it safe and without resolve. The three are all excellent masterminds, but not rulers, lacking in drive. Morong Shui nodded. Yeah, who else in this world would bet on victory using the entire population as a bargaining chip but a demon like you? In any case, it's good to be careful. They also lack the foundation to take such risks. Zhuofan took one last look at Luo Yunhai in the distance and then vanished. Morong Shui followed him. Chapter 1146, Last Hope. Chapter 1146, Last Hope. Proofreader, Papatonks. Luo Yunhai left with the crime of killing a central area prince on his shoulders, followed by the retreat of the 5 million army. The four lands breathed easier, rejoicing at having avoided another bitter war. Whatever Bailey Jingwei was thinking, they never wanted to wage war with him, be it in strength, numbers, and peak experts. They lost to the central area by a clear margin. In a high-level battle, last time they had Zhuofan leading them. So who was to match Bailey Jingwei's brains now? The leader's joy and celebration was Luo clan's sorrow. Everyone, with Luo Yunchang and the numb Luo Sifan, sat in their chairs with worry. The three minds sighed. The venerables lowered their heads, losing their boldness. Bam! Li Jingtian slammed the table and jumped to his feet. We're going to get clan head back. Hide for a while and the news will just blow over. Bull, did you forget who holds him? Sword Star Empire. Have you forgotten the miserable defeat to Danqing Shun? Save him? Watch out not to leave your life first, humph. Lung Wuchang glared back with a louder voice. Everyone started, for Sir Long was always respectful to the venerables. It was clear that even he took the loss hard. Li Jingtian slammed the table again. What then? Are we going to let Clan Head go with them and have the Empire execute him? I've been with Clan Head in wars for 100 years now and never so furious. Elderly, wait. Zhuge Changfeng was quite calm, his eyes sharp. Bailey Jingwei is known as the best minister in the world. His schemes are deeper than anyone's. Nobody can rival his strategies either. Did he make such a convoluted plan just to take our clan head's life? No disrespect, but no matter how strong the Luo alliance is, it's far from worthy of his full attention. The play has yet to end. Just wait. The others nodded in silence. Luo Sifan lit up. Grandpa Zhuge, you mean Dad will live? He should. Clan Head is a pawn that Bailey Jingwei now may use in some way. What's certain, though, is that a pawn isn't to be discarded so soon. Zhuge Changfeng frowned and sighed. But Bailey Jingwei is treacherous and cunning. We may guess his next plan, but what of it? We don't even have the strength to hold negotiations. Steward Zhuo was the best at this. Lung Wuchang sighed. If Steward Zhuo was here, Clan Head would have never been taken. He'd have a way to make the central area suffer for it. The others all nodded their heads, recalling the good old days. Steward Zhuo. Luo Sifan let the words sink in. Is he the one Auntie loves? How could he save Dad? Pa. Patting her head just a bit harder, Luo Yunchang held a bitter smile. Her eyes filled with emotion. Yes, the Luo clan would have no problems with him around. Sifan, you may not know, but Steward Zhuo is our first steward and the founder of the Luo Alliance. The first 7 elders all know Steward Zhuo's power back in the day, playing a pivotal role in what the Luo clan is today. Li Jingtian was grave. With Clan Head's righteous style, the people respect us. But Steward Zhuo commanded with an iron fist, shaking many of us just thinking about it. But more than anything, he has our admiration and reverence. Clan Head is a righteous leader while Steward Zhuo was a tyrant. The Luo Alliance's foundation was laid by Steward Zhuo every step of the way. Without him, there wouldn't be a Luo Alliance. Luo Sifan gasped. Really? Is he that great? I thought he was just Auntie's lover, and so you didn't talk about him to not make her sad. Now I see he was so important to the Luo Alliance, even more than the 7 elders. Not just important, the elders bowed at his coming. Yu Ming finally spoke, recalling his past. In essence, he was the Luo clan's clan head and its darkness. Darkness? Yes, the Luo clan couldn't have grown so much without a dark past. Yu Ming said, he is behind it all. He handled and fought everything without qualms or fear. After he left and clan head took the seat, our lives changed. The darkness remained, brought by those 2 old men, but not as heavy and cruel. From dark to light, we developed honor and loyalty, winning popularity. Hey, Yu Ming, I'm the nicest grandpa to Siphon here. Don't just taint me. Yeah, like you haven't seen darkness either. Zhuge Changfeng and Long Wucheng joined, glaring at him. Don't go spilling our secrets to the children. Yu Ming smirked. Old yet still playing nice? Look at me, I've always said it openly. I never left the darkness. How could you leave the darkness when you're the head of the Shadow Corps, in charge of intelligence? TCH. The oldies snickered. Yu Ming turned serious. One thing is certain. We must save clan head, not through honor, but the most vile and darkest trick. Old men, bring out all your dirty tricks from ages past, and let's see if we can do it. Take what out? We'd have done it if we had any. Zhuge Changfeng rolled his eyes and sighed. We've been racking our brains and still couldn't find anything usable. It seems only Steward could handle Bailey Jingwei. Luo Siphon lit up just then. Steward can really save Mom and Dad? If there's anyone in the world that can match Bailey Jingwei and save them, then that's Steward Zhuge Changfeng said. Siphon, 100 years ago, in the World War, the Central Area's army, directed by Bailey Jingwei, was invincible. With little choice, the Four Lands made Steward their Grand Marshal, turning the whole thing around in 3 moves and crushing Bailey Jingwei's plan. In other words, if there's one that can foil the best minister's plans, that would be the best steward beneath heaven. Luo Siphon jumped out of Luo Yunchang's embrace in excitement, going to Zhuge Changfeng. Grandpa Zhuge, tell me, where is Steward now? I'd have gone to find him if I knew. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. We only know that Steward is dead, swallowed by the sea demon 100 years ago. It's unclear if it's true or not, but 100 years came and went without anyone seeing him. Maybe dead? Luo Siphon's hope was dashed as soon as it sprouted. Having just heard of someone that could bring back her parents, the next moment she found out he was dead. What about her parents? Luo Siphon turned forlorn, tears welling in her eyes. A chuckle reached their ears. Of course it's fake. Steward is alive and well. What? All eyes turned to a girl grinning from ear to ear. Luo Siphon cheered. Auntie Schwanger. Siphon, don't worry. There's hope for your parents yet. She hugged the girl and chuckled. Zhuge Changfeng jumped to his feet, as did the rest of them, cupping their hands. Holy maiden. Schwanger, weren't you cultivating in your homeland? You're back so soon? Luo Yunchang rejoiced and welcomed her with joy. Yun Shuang's eyes shone in a mysterious azure light. Yes, I had been training and saw the demise of Alliance leader Luo, but then his saving. So I rushed out to ask about it, only to learn that Danqing Shan was after him. It was certain death, yet abetted in the end. Among all the people I know, there's only one man that can change fate, and he did it many times to release clan head Luo of his death. Who do you think it can be? Zhuo Fan? Everyone cried out. Then Luo Yunchang turned dully at Luo Siphon. Siphon, didn't you say you scared Danqing Shan away? Just what exactly happened? Did you see him? Luo Siphon's mind was hit with immense shock. He's the one auntie and everyone calls Steward Zhuge? Blind uncle is the first steward of the Luo Alliance? Chapter 1147. Inquire. Chapter 1147. Inquire. Proofreader. Papatonks. What? No way. That blind swordsmith is the first steward and founder of the Luo Alliance? In a gloomy forest, a dozen people walked through the bushes. Long Jinshan cried out once Luo Siphon explained, staring with wide and dull eyes. It's obvious now why he's so familiar to our alliance and knows everyone. Not afraid of me, being the grandson of the original elders. He is above even them. Xian Yinyang rolled his eyes, huffing, please, he didn't need to be the most important in the Luo alliance to disregard your origins. Not with his strength. Oh, you're right. Recalling how Zhua Fan repelled the dragon-cleaving Sword King, Long Jianshan's heart sank. Such a peak expert would hardly care about anyone. He must have left since the Luo alliance was so tiny for him. The Luo alliance is filled with experts, but none to the level of Sword Kings. Being second best in Western lands is hardly enough to impress this god. Long Jianshan sighed. He stands at the very top and can defeat the entire alliance by himself, so why care about us? Now we're asking for his help, and we're yet to know if he'll accept. Why else then did he hide his true identity? He must not want to be on our side. Pa! A quick palm struck him over the head. Long Jianshan shrank, looking back to see Luo Yunchang staring daggers at him. Brat, what nonsense are you spouting? You know nothing of our founding steward. When we were at our weakest, he did everything for us, without the thought of casting us aside. Now it's no different. Luo Yunchang spat as she set him straight. You think all are like you, selfish and cocky? I'll have to pay your grandfather a visit to get you in shape. Your dad's upright act was a bad influence. Auntie Luo, I was just saying, why so angry? Long Jianshan's face fell. Dad may be sloppy, but I follow grandfather's example and uphold our clan's honor. Huh? Luo Yunchang laughed and the others smiled. Luo Sifan glared at him, whispering, Long Jianshan, stop back talking. Steward Zhua is very important to Auntie. Try to complain about him some more and see how she'll tear you to pieces. That much? Long Jianshan shivered, sneaking a peek at Luo Yunchang's icy look. Auntie Luo, the blind swordsmith can't be your man, right? Hee. What are you looking at? Feeling his nasty eyes on her, Luo Yunchang could read his mind like an open book, snapping at him. Then she shouted in annoyance, Sifan, are we there yet? Where's that punk? Luo Sifan bobbed her head, not wanting to earn the ire of a woman in menopause, pointing, just up ahead. There's a sword shack where the blind uncle lives. I finally found you, rotten bastard. Luo Yunchang was furious, though the light in her eyes danced with joy. Ignoring Luo Sifan, she rushed forth only to see the place desolate. The rest smiled. Young Miss can't wait after 100 years, ha ha ha. The others were just as eager, hurrying over. But as they neared the shack, they found the bamboo place empty, with Luo Yunchang coming out devastated. Sifan, where is he? Auntie. Luo Sifan glanced at the empty place and rushed inside to check better. This isn't right. We've been here twice now, and it was filled with spiritual swords. Where have they all gone? Li Jingtian and the 5 venerables offered. Yeah, when we woke up from our wounds, there were hung spiritual swords everywhere. How come there isn't any now? Humph, isn't it obvious? That bastard scampered off. Does he hate seeing me so much? Luo Yunchang gave a forlorn chuckle. On the verge of crying, she had been worried sick over him for 100 years, every second of it. Now that she got a clue, what greeted her was a cold and empty place. Luo Yunchang felt her heart breaking. It was no longer a matter of finding Zhua Fan, but him avoiding them like the plague. No one could find him. Not while he was running away. Luo Yunchang slumped on the ground, hugging her knees as she sobbed. Did I do anything wrong? Does he hate seeing me so much? Auntie. Luo Sifan had never seen her so devastated and heartbroken. An old hand touched her shoulder. In comfort, Zhuge Changfeng sighed, turning grave. Miss Sifan, what happened then? Are you certain the blind swordsmith is Steward Zhua? And no. Luo Sifan frowned. The 3 were talking while we shooed away. We couldn't hear them and didn't know who he was. Zhuge Changfeng took a deep breath, calculating as he spoke to Li Jingtian. Those 3 are the strongest while the kids are just in the radiant stage. If they didn't want the kids to hear, then not a word would reach them, not with how large the gap in strength was. Yeah, why would Steward Zhua just let some children eavesdrop on him when he avoids us? Woo. Luo Yunchang only cried harder. That punk, he doesn't want to see me. The others were stumped on how to console the crying miss. But this was not the time for comfort. It was to find Zhua Fan to save their head. Whoosh. Someone flashed before them and bowed, presenting a jade slip to Zhuge Changfeng. Steward Zhuge, there's news from the border. The Sword Star Empire sent a jade slip for Steward Zhuge. A jade slip from the Empire? Zhuge Changfeng squinted. Bailey Jingwei is ready to use clan head. In that case, he must have wanted to speak terms with us. Yes. Zhuge Changfeng agreed with Lung Wuchang. This might be clan head's lifeline. Let's see what trick he's up to. Zhuge Changfeng pondered, then turned to the crying Luo Yunchang. Young miss, Bailey Jingwei wants to talk with us and negotiate clan head's fate. Luo Yunchang raised her red eyes. You mean Bailey Jingwei wants to talk about conditions? Yunhai can return? Yes, we'll see what he wants. It might not be good, but hope still remains. Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and stood up, her tone harsh. Steward Zhuge, you three will go with me. Elder Qiu and Sister Shui will follow as well. The rest are to stay here and wait for the punk to come back. Make sure to keep him here. Auntie, will he come? There's nothing here. Humph, regardless of what he does, you are to not leave the place out of your sight. Luo Yunchang shouted, making Luo Sifan flinch in fright. Hell hath no fury as a woman scorned. She wants to tear Steward Zhuge apart. Li Jingtian frowned. Young miss, it'll be dangerous going with so few. We must go regardless. Yunhai's life is at stake. At least take more men. Li Jingtian proposed. Zhuge Changfeng denied. Elderly, it'll be fine. Sword Star Empire is filled with experts. If he wanted to hurt us, our numbers wouldn't matter. He has no such intention. Even surrounded, it won't matter. The issue is that we must step into this trap. Li Jingtian sighed and nodded. Take care. Since it's just talk, Bailey Jingwei won't touch us. There's thousands of ways to grab us, not needing his direct attention. We'll be fine. Zhuge Changfeng smiled. Cupping his hands at Li Jingtian, Luo Yunchang took one last long look at the shack and left with a ruthless heart. Just you wait, devil. I'll chase you to the ends of the world if I have to. Chapter 1148. Talk. Chapter 1148. Talk. Proofreader. Papatonks. Luo Yunchang's group left soon after, leaving Luo Sifan sighing and returning to the shack. Their task was to wait for Zhuge Fan's return and ask the founding steward's assistance, though the odds were slim at best. Just as they turned around, inside the shack appeared a table and a youth with covered eyes sitting in a chair next to it, enjoying tea as he talked like they weren't there. Luo Sifan stuttered, "Be blind, uncle." Steward Zhuge. Li Jingtian widened, his eyes turning red as he rushed in. A century had passed since the founding steward seized power. Now this man they all admired was back. The three venerables gushed with excitement. Zhuge Fan raised his head, smiling. Elderly people, how have you been the past century? Steward Zhuge, the highest venerable in the Luo alliance, slumped to his feet and cupped his hands, his staunch expression speaking volumes words couldn't hold. There was also the undying loyalty shining in his eyes, stronger than he showed towards Luo Yunhai, having never seen the venerable so overwhelmed. The kids were now certain he was the one all elders in the Luo alliance called Steward Zhuge. It was obvious now just how much effect he had over it. Bigger than her father ever had. It was seen from how the three venerables behaved that they did not plead for the clan head, but showed their heartfelt respect by kneeling, like he was the alliance leader instead. But how can this be? A steward from a century ago may be tough, but to think he can overshadow the clan head? Isn't this undermining the Lord and staging a power play? Yet even with all that power, he still left, leaving all that clout behind. Luo Sifan felt she understood why her father and auntie trusted him so and didn't forget him after all these years. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang were shell-shocked. They knew of the venerable's quirky characters and pride. They'd never shown such respect unless it was someone stronger than them. It was jarring to see the stubborn old coots so sincere. They aren't like this even around the alliance leader. The two kids found Zhuge Fan even more of a mystery. He looked like a fancy scholar now and enjoyed tea. With no air of savagery, Luo Sifan turned her head, but Zhuge Fan stopped her from doing anything. Girl, where are you going? I'm going after Auntie. They wanted to meet you, and should be close still. I'll call them back. Luo Sifan said quickly. Zhuge Fan shook his head. No need. I don't want to see them. That's why I was hiding. Why? For I'm waiting for the plan to start. Zhuge Fan sighed. I never wanted to drag you into this, but Bailey Jingwei chose you, and I have no choice but to make use of you. Please don't take it to heart letting you suffer a bit. Suffer? Luo Siffin's lip shook, running to his side. Blind Yunash, Uncle Joie, it doesn't matter. But Dad and Mom are about to be killed. Please save them. Worry not, they'll all be fine. You just need to endure a bit longer and take a bit more suffering. Patting her head, Shuafan smiled and walked out of the shack. Reaching the three kneeling venerables, when young Miss returns, tell everyone that the Luo Alliance is just like the Luo clan in the past when facing the Sword Star Empire. To win, you must throw away the unnecessary and return to the darkness. Remember, a house divided against itself cannot stand, and just ignore everything else. Shuafan was gone. Everyone cried. Steward Joie? No amount of shouting brought him back. They were looking perplexed. Steward Joie had clearly shown himself to give him advice, but what could it mean? A week later, at the border between the Empire and Western lands, Luo Yunchang and her group walked through a thick forest and towards a worn house. A man in black was waiting for them in a bow, the honored Luo Alliance guests. Yes. Luo Yunchang spoke coldly. I am Luo Yunchang, the young miss of Luo Alliance. I am now handling its affairs. You honor us, young Miss Luo. Clan head has been waiting a long time. Bowing again, the man opened the door and gestured. Luo Yunchang took bold steps inside, with the rest following suit. The door shut, plunging the room in darkness. This did not work to unnerve the group, keeping calm. Clap. Chapter 1149. You have no right. Chapter 1149. You have no right. Proofreader. Papatonks. Zhuge Chongfeng smiled. Hilarious, Prime Minister. You would take the head of a prince for the head of our clan head? Isn't that a bit cheap? It's unlike your glorious style from before. Glorious? Ha ha ha. Since you know of it, then you understand that after suffering defeat because of it, I'll never take such a stance again. Bailey Jingwei mocked. I'm now very petty, in fact, down to the last spirit stone. The prince is nothing, no better than a pig having just above average heritage. The rest is wastage. While Alliance leader Luo is in the prime of his youth, his order respected, his word revered. I find giving a pig over for a future leader the deal of a lifetime. Zhuge Chongfeng hesitated and Leng Wucheng stepped in. Prime Minister, why have you called us here? Isn't it to negotiate? Sir Long, yes? Bailey Jingwei chuckled. I heard Sir Long's unwanted contriver title, eyes piercing into the hearts of the enemy. For you to say I called you here for negotiations, then what would my terms be? If you can say what's on my mind, I might just go with it after all. Ha. Leng Wucheng frowned and smiled. How could I fathom Sir Bailey's machinations? Sir can go ahead and say it, and let us weigh them. Sir Long sure is sneaky, probing me like Sir Zhuge did. But I won't fall for it. Bailey Jingwei snickered. If Sir Long can't guess, then the next one. If none of you three's answers please me, then I've only called you here to inform you of when to pick up the body. Bye. Leng Wucheng's face darkened. Bailey Jingwei was toying with them, but they could not just leave, not when clan head's safety was at stake. And they had to humor him. Sir Bailey, you can't mean for the entire Luo Alliance to give itself to the Empire? They all grimaced. It was the same as betraying Western lands and leaving it without hope at survival. Oh, how interesting. Bailey Jingwei's eyes lit up and nodded, showing a queer smile at the grave Leng Wucheng. Sir Long, you said it. So tell me, is it high or low? Leng Wucheng frowned. He guessed by now Bailey Jingwei's aim at getting Luo Yun high was to make the rest follow his whims, but by doing that, that would mean ruining all the work they had in building Luo Alliance in the Western lands over the last century. Honor and righteousness would vanish into thin air, earning everyone's scorn as the Luo Alliance moved to the central area. And with the power established in the central area already, and them having no sword king, they would be marginalized, hardly even able to make ends meet. It was no different than setting yourself up. Saving clan head was important, but over such a steep condition, they needed to reconsider the rest of the people in the alliance. Bailey Jingwei chuckled at their worries. Sir Long, relax. There's no way the ruination of the clan is worth Luo Yunhai's life. Moreover, the central area has run out of space, large as it is. Settling the Luo alliance would only bring more trouble than help. Ha ha ha. Who? Everyone eased a breath in relief. Had Bailey Jingwei mentioned this term, even Luo Yunchang would have had to abandon Luo Yunhai to keep the family name next. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Sir Yuming is a serviceman of the Luo clan. Try guessing my intention. Say it right and the deal is sealed. Yuming pondered. Prime Minister wants Western lands, but holding alliance leader hostage can't be to have the alliance take such responsibility. Maybe you intend to have our borders slackened? Go on. Bailey Jingwei lit up in excitement. Yuming continued after a pause. Luo alliance has been in charge of defending Western lands for years. Prime Minister Bailey wants Western lands, thus must control its defenses. All right, I'll release the defense plans and the erase weakness to the Prime Minister, making it easy to strike. But this deal is a one-time thing. Marvelous. Bailey Jingwei shouted and slapped the table. Luo Yunchang said, That's your term? No. Bailey Jingwei shouted with the same joy, eyeing the great minds with scorn. Just how on earth did you even contend with Xue Fan is beyond me? Can't you see what I want? Like I said, the order is given and all lands know it now. Changing it halfway will question my authority. You have to give me a very good reason to release him for that. Then what do you want? For the Luo alliance to cooperate in helping take Western lands, Bailey Jingwei spoke solemnly. What? They all gasped. Work together to take Western lands? That's worse than death. That's a revolt, betrayal, regicide. Forget about the Luo alliance's righteous name. It could never raise its hands against its old friends in the Western lands. Luo Yunchang's face twitched. No, absolutely not. Yunhai would never agree to this. He values honor above all else. Learning the Luo alliance he nurtured turned into a shiv. To stab his friends would break him. Young Miss Luo, you're wrong. In this world, everyone is at each other's throat. By not killing them, they'll kill you. You can't accept striking them, but they would not hesitate to do it. Bailey Jingwei smiled and worked his charm. Remember how Alliance leader Luo ended up in my custody? Discarded, cast out by the whole of Western lands. You're too strong and the leaders disdain you, wanting you out of the picture, missing only an excuse. Sure, I used a cheap trick, but if Western lands had protected you, I'd have never gotten Alliance leader Luo. In other words, casting blame was just the spar. For the ones who truly want the end of the Luo alliance are those bastards in Western lands. Yet you're still thinking it over? Luo Yunchang wavered. Bailey Jingwei straightened and mocked. Alliance leader Luo is now with me and everyone knows I have you in my palm. You really think Western lands will trust you? Those old bastards know better than anyone just how dangerous any faction whose leader is taken hostage is. But with your clout, they can't touch you. Yet, though they will wear you down, turning you into a shell of your former selves. By then, you'll be nothing but dead meat. We may lose our power, but we can't lose our conscience. Do you even have it? Do they have it? Bailey Jingwei sneered. I still have Alliance leader Luo with me, set to die a month from now. And when I up and postpone it, what do you think the Western lands will think? They'll believe we struck a deal and would see you as spies. You could say anything you want at that point, for your old friends would still point their blades at you, the same ones you hate to kill now. Your honor would be stained all the same, turned into wretched traitors. All shuddered, looking at Bailey Jingwei with hatred and fear. How cruel! Bailey Jingwei chuckled at their obvious thoughts. Don't look at me like that. I'm doing you a favor here. You just have to help me take Western lands, and you'll be its rulers. It's only natural. Alliance leader Luo doesn't need to die, and I'll declare it to be an elaborate scheme. We will work together to unify the lands and reach the top. You'll then be made high officials and not traitors, entering written in history books as winners. In short, your betrayal will be washed away. Everyone had long faces. Luo Yunchang shook all over. Prime Minister Bailey, would you allow our young Miss time to consider a reply? Zhuge Changfeng proposed. Left with no other choice, Bailey Jingwei nodded. Sure. I'll be here 10 more days, awaiting the good news. Though better work fast, for your alliance leader is a goner in a month. We know. Zhuge Changfeng nodded and helped Luo Yunchang out. Bailey Jingwei had one last thing to say though. Masterminds, did you really fight with Xue Fan? They flinched. You never had the right. Bailey Jingwei mocked the three darkened, opting to leave in oppressive silence. Chapter 1150. All set. Chapter 1150. All set. Proofreader. Papatonks. Blasted Bailey Jingwei. He was actually testing us all this time. Curses. He was looking for our own limit, while we didn't find anything about his. A real piece of work. The clear moon shone down on the gloomy trees as a group walked hastily among them, with Long Wuchang and Yu Ming the only ones complaining Zhuge Changfeng's side in the end. All right, neither of us could figure him out or how big his game is. He now has Alliance leader with him and plans on squeezing him for all his worth, preying on our affection for Alliance leader and the fate of the entire Luo Alliance. He's right, we've fallen in disfavor with the leaders. If he keeps using Alliance leader for his own agenda, then it's only a matter of time before our own people turn on us and give us a miserable death. Yeah, living is for fame and fortune. To die for loyalty and honor isn't a bad fate either. But to die with scorn, who would be willing to go down like that? Maybe he's right, that our only hope is the Empire. He took our clan head and blocked all other options. Bailey Jingwei is too damn good. Lung Wuchang sighed, but then turned to the worried Luo Yunchang. Young miss must be hurting the most. It all falls on her shoulders, whether to live or die. Maybe she decided to give up her brother, plunging the clan in misery and filling the alliance with shame. Even a man couldn't take such pressure, let alone a woman. Everyone frowned harder. They took 3 days to return, back to the shack. Luo Sifan rushed at their sight, saying, "Auntie, Grandpa Zhuge, Steward came." "What?" Luo Yunchang cried out, a glimmer of hope piercing through the dark despair. She burst into the shack, searching all over for the one she longed for years and years. She was under too much weight and needed someone to shoulder it. But any search proved to be in vain. Finding no trace of him after dozens of searches, Li Jingtian came with a bow. "Young miss, there's no point." Steward left moments after he came. Left? Luo Yunchang's hope plunged into the darkest abyss of sorrow. Why would he leave? Doesn't he know how much I need him to help me with this problem? How could he just leave? Luo Yunchang burst out into tears. Zhuge Changfeng came next to elderly and spoke. "Did he say something?" "He left a message for you." "What message?" "It's," Li Jingtian recounted Zhuo Fan's words. The three minds frowned in thought. Think of the Luo Alliance as the past Luo clan? Abandon everything for the darkness? Steward Zhuo means. "Young miss, how was the past Luo clan? We only came later and don't know." Zhuge Changfeng asked, sniffing. Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and spat. "How else could it be? In ruins and hunted. We were at risk of starving to death." What did Steward Zhuo do? He had the skill to find allies everywhere, trying every trick to get them. Sometimes he even got the leaders of Veiled Dragon Pavilion so confused that they agreed to bring us resources. I warned him that this isn't right, since they're allies. But how could they be allies when they were far stronger? They weren't respectful towards the Luo clan, but towards Zhuo Fan. His guile was endless, scamming his own allies, saying all the same that he'd pay back. Scamming allies, I see. The three minds nodded, grinning from ear to ear. Zhuge Changfeng said, "Steward saw through Bailey Jingwei's plan and told us we can't handle anything, so might as well give up trying. Return to darkness to find survival, throwing away even honor and righteousness while only thinking of ourselves. As a house divided goes against our survival, raising unrest among us, in Western lands, and in so doing the same thing that Bailey Jingwei does." Luo Yunchang asked, "That villain is saying to agree with Bailey Jingwei and strike Western lands together? Since when is he on the enemy's side and asking us to surrender?" "Ha ha, Steward was prideful and arrogant. Bailey Jingwei lost once, so it's easy to make him lose again. Bailey Jingwei won't soon forget Steward either. These two mortal enemies would never join hands. Steward must have a different plan in store. There's no harm in following his wishes. We'll hardly lose anything." Zhuge Changfeng sighed. "Bailey Jingwei gave us a single way out, a suicidal one, while Steward has his plan with it." Sniffing twice, Luo Yunchang's eyes burned with anger, but Zhuo Fan's answer soothed her worried heart, bringing tranquility. "Fine, Tell Bailey Jingwei we accept. Sifin, don't worry. Since that wretched man has a plan, your parents will be fine. Luo Sifin blinked clueless at her aunt and her blind faith in the man, inspiring trust in her as well. Blind uncle, my parents' lives are in your hands. In an icy wasteland, a lone figure trekked through the heavy snow, the blistering winds flinging the ends of the eye cover whoosh. A blue figure pooped in front, cupping his hands. Big brother, you're here at last. I've missed you to death. Chongqing, it's been a while. Zhuofan raised his head as he faced the best disciple in Northern Lands. Ouyang Chongqing, it was a close-guarded secret that this Northern Lands expert was actually one of Devil Palace's 3 emissaries. Moon Devil Emissary. Due to Moon Devil Emissary's position and fame he had from his real identity, Devil Palace didn't need to infiltrate the Northern Lands over the past century. Already having it under its thumb, Zhuofan patted his shoulder. Activate the barrier. I'm going to North Sea. You're entering seclusion again, big brother? Yeah. Bailey Jingwei has made his move and I need to seize the moment. Zhuofan said, I'll be aiming for Genesis stage this time. If I don't come out in time, besides following the plan, I ask that you look after the Luo clan as well. Ouyang Chongqing nodded, showing a confident smile. Don't worry, big brother, I'll handle it. But weren't you against getting them involved? Devil Palace never made contact with them all these years. Why would they? I've been waiting for Bailey Jingwei to pick his pawn from Western Lands, but it turns out to be Luo clan. Since there's no way out, I can only let them trudge deeper and just watch over them a little, that's all. Zhuofan sighed in defeat. Ouyang Chongqing nodded, making a sign to open the barrier, and the two stepped into Sea Bright Sect. Behind it was where Zhuofan was going to enter seclusion. In the North Sea, housing the Sea Demon, nothing could disturb his training with the Sea Demon keeping watch. Perhaps none in even the sacred domain could enjoy such lavish treatment. In the Thunder Pavilion of the Imperial capital, Bailey Jingwei was grave as he walked into the range of those heavy rumbling. Looking at the streaking lightning with sharp eyes, Patriarch, I'm back? Bailey Jingwei smiled. My mistake had caused you such heavy wounds, cutting your boundless life to a mere 100 years. For that, I felt guilt crushing me. We didn't know what to do while you entered Thunder Pavilion in seclusion. It has been 100 years now. In your state, doing anything could be life-threatening. But we know no one can change your mind. But having not come out this past 100 years, rumors go around saying you've passed away, inciting further unrest within the Empire. Rest assured that with me here, the Empire will be safe no matter what. All is set as I begin cleaning up all the dregs. Patriarch, no matter if you're still healthy or gone, watch as Sword Star Empire unites the lands and roots out all traitors. Bailey Jingwei gave one last bow to the rumbling lightning, shouting his last words and leaving with resolve in his eyes. A boom echoed out, shaking the world as Thunder Pavilion crumbled. A huge thunderstorm exploded in the heavens above, with all the lightning gathering soon after into a 300-meter thunder sword. Unleashing deadly power, Bailey Jingwei shuddered. Looking back, Patriarch, you're out?